here we go. Hello, hello. I hope everybody is well. It's Wednesday night. It's the Flipping Out stream. Yes, if anybody hasn't or is new to this or watching this afterwards, my name's Joel. This is the Flipping Out stream. I stream every Wednesday from 10 to midnight, roughly Eastern Standard Time. And this is a chatting stream, so I'm not playing pinball tonight. I'm not gonna, force that on you like I have the last few weeks, my brother and I. But we're just gonna have a good time tonight, chatting it up about pinball. Kind of talk about the news, and we have a really, really exciting game that I'm excited to break down and work through. But I love it. I love seeing people that are here. They're already here, already ready to go. Pin Mike, by the way, I read what you were saying there. You're visiting your brother. That's awesome. Enjoy Canada. Say hey to Craig and Mike for me when you're up there, because clearly you're going to see him. But yeah, Brooklyn Pins, Moomon's always here. It's great. Pinball Eddie, awesome. Kirk Hobbs, dude, he's overseas. Scott, I've seen you commenting on a bunch of the videos. I'm glad you're here. Sterling's here with Balls of Steel. It's awesome. Michael, awesome. Love it. I love seeing people here. Les, love it, love it, love it. I love that people are here and they're excited to be here. But yeah, I'm excited. Tonight should be a good time. And like I said earlier, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, like it, subscribe. We have joining now, which is kind of like subbing on Twitch. There's super chat there. There's anything you want to support the channel. All of that goes to me if it's streaming, which is awesome. And I just try to put it right back into the channel. But really appreciate it. Love people being here. I love these chatting streams. And tonight's going to be a good one. Mervin, Methadone's here. Awesome. Should be a really good time. One of the main reasons it's going to be so fun is because of these three guys right here. These three guys. Yeah, this is our group for tonight. We're going to work our way around like we normally do. So introduce yourself. What do you do? I see Craig's in chat. Nice. What do you do within TPN or within pinball? And what was the last game of pinball you played? So being that Craig is so active in chat, we're going to go opposite this time. And we're going to have Craig go first. So Craig.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And great to be back, Joel. Thanks for having me on. I am, of course, Craig Bobby, and I do the wacky Top Stories news segment for the Pinball Show with Zach Meny and Dennis Kriesel, which you can hear on the Pinball Network every other Monday. And, well, you might, I don't know, it's been a while, but you might remember that maybe the last time you saw me on here, I actually had 2 games behind me. Now I only have one.
Avengers is gone.
Yes, there is a hole. There is a hole.
I thought
just
you were
in time
like,
for them to cancel Rush. So my grand plan was foiled.
I didn't even think about you. I knew you were all in on getting one, and then didn't you have the distributor be like, "I got yours," and you're like, "I'm not in the mood."
Yeah, I did it again. I actually did it twice. I did it. He offered me a premium, and I said, "No, I don't know. I might want the pro." And then he said, "Okay." And then a few weeks later, he had a pro, and I'm like, "I still don't know."
You ordered Expression Lighting. Don't you have?
I have that. Yes, I got that actually.
What?
He has an Expression Lighting kit.
I have an Expression Lighting kit.
You haven't got mine yet. I'm gonna have to get a hold of Player One.
Yeah.
I think it was Jerry, the manager at Player One. It was his last thing he did before he retired. He's like, "Damn it, I'm gonna sell you something here."
Wow.
So yes, I did get my Expression Lighting kit.
Okay.
But I have no game to put it on. So
well, I have a game.
Are you still looking though, right? Like that is still the goal, or have you transferred?
Yeah, well, so then I thought, well, you know what? Then I thought to myself, damn this new in-box shit. I'm gonna buy one used. And of course, prior to that, there's been tons of used Rushes up here.
Yeah,
now there is 0, and I've been looking for like 3 months. 0, not even an LE, like nothing.
I think as soon as word got out that Stern might not be running them anymore, no, we may not have room to run some Rush anymore. The license is running out. People are like, yeah, I think I might hold on to that then. I might hold on to that game for a little bit longer just in case.
I'm so sorry for you, Craig. That is unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
Meanwhile, Iron Maiden's still being run. Like, I can't understand this. I cannot understand what's happening over there at Stern.
I think Stern just hates Ray Day. That's what I'm thinking. Ray Day.
Like, damn it.
Ray Day makes Led Zeppelin.
That game came out in 2017, didn't
Rush.
it? Like, that Iron Maiden. Like, I feel like that's been out for, like, since the dawn of time. And they're still running.
Yeah, Ray Day's like...
yeah, Star Wars, too.
Ray Day's like Beetlejuice, right? We say his name 3 times and he shows up. Ray Day. Just wait. Let's see if he shows.
Can you think of a game that they have just basically without warning, stop producing in like the modern era. I can't think of hardly one that they've done that to, just out of the blue, where they've just
Well,
said, "Oh no, we're actually not going to make it."
I mean, I know like Stranger Things is one that they stopped quicker than I think people were expecting. But I think Rush is the first game. I mean, it was just voted game of the year. You know, it's like
I know.
that game. It was a surprise because of how well it's being received and liked right now. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think Stern's saying we only have so much room on the line, and they'd rather do Godzilla and Foo Fighters and something else in Rush. But
Well, I mean, weren't people saying the only reason why Rush won last year is because Godzilla couldn't win 2 years in a row?
well, I mean,
It's a travesty. It's all a travesty. I don't know what to say.
Um,
I was trying to get Ray Day and John Borg to try and like assemble me some with just like
you-
pieces lying around the factory and make some sort of hybrid model, and I'd call it like the 2112 LE model or something like that.
yeah.
I couldn't get any traction. They were like,
Chad, I see what you guys. We are definitely going to talk about the Godzilla topper. Don't worry, I will share my opinion on that. And pin my guess. I do have my Mothra figure. It's upstairs. Les has asked a very important question here, George, which is what has happened to your hat? I don't think he realizes that it's a Cookie Monster hat. So
It is a Cookie Monster hat, and Cookie Monster got hungry, and he took a good bite out of it.
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm so sorry, Craig, but
yeah.
you know,
And then you know what I did? You know what I did? I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna pull in Zach. I'm like, if anyone can get me a rush, it's gonna be Zach. So I texted him like, hey Zach, any chance you might have a rush lying around? You might run. He's like, good luck, buddy. Wish I could help. I'm like, what the fuck?
Good luck, buddy. Try again.
I want to play a game. What do you mean, good luck?
Oh,
Pretty
man.
please.
Oh, that sucks, man. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry, but hey, I'm happy you're here. So yes, thank you so much for being here, man.
I'll get
Uh,
my rush. Yeah, you
yeah.
just wait. I'm gonna get one.
That's awesome. Mike, how's your rush doing?
My rush is doing
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, still
Yeah.
playing fine. Yeah, no issues, anything like
Yeah.
that.
Have you thought about
You're
selling it?
welcome to come all the way down the 401 and have
Yes.
a go at it anytime you want.
I'll bring my
Right?
expression lighting kit and
Yeah.
we'll come together. You know?
Yes.
And he'll take it home with him.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mike,
For
go
sure.
for it, man. Who are you? What do you do? What was the last game of pinball you played?
Well, I'm Mike, and I stream pinball. Well, as of recently, occasionally.
Yeah.
So, like George, I've kind of not purposely or intentionally or even scheduled. I just haven't streamed a whole lot recently. I have been over the last couple of weeks, and plan to again too. I'm trying to get play a little more pinball as I make my way towards Yegpin.
Nice.
So we are going to be doing a few tournaments. We're streaming the North Star Summer Classic on July 8th. So that's just in a couple of weeks coming up. So we'll be doing that as well. And the Beast in August, we're going to be streaming that as well. And in between that, we'll be at Yegpin. So we'll do some updates on our social media there and stuff like that. But other than that, the last game I played actually was yesterday, which I streamed, was Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
Led Zeppelin, yeah. So I had it up for sale or trade months ago, and I did get offers, but I didn't get anything that I really was interested in, nor did I get a full cash offer on the game. So I never pursued it, and I reposted it again yesterday, and I said, you know what, I'm going to stream it just in case maybe someone gets interested in it now. So I'm going to stream it. And I do this every time, and then I had so much fun playing the game. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna miss it if it goes. I don't know. Should I keep it? Should I put something else up? I really enjoy, like, the game doesn't have. There's nothing special about the modes or anything like that. I just like the cadence. There is a lot of multi balls, but I like the strategy of trying to set up your multi-balls to be able to get them consecutively and do them while you're doing songs at the same time, and sort of make your way through the game, trying to sort of always have a multi-ball ready to go so it can help you make progress through your songs, which take a ton of shots to finish.
Yeah.
I just, enjoying doing that kind of thing, and had some decent games on stream yesterday. So I don't know. It's love it or hate it. Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay, I haven't played it in a while. Let's
Yeah.
just get rid of it, see if we can trade it for something, and then I play it and I have such a good time with it. It's just, yeah.
I was, to be 100% honest, had very low expectations when Zach gave me the Led Zeppelin 2 stream. I just wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't expecting a ton out of it, but yet, to be 100% honest, I had a blast. I had a blast with that game. That game is so, you could just play it. You could just get on it and rock out and just, especially, guitar solo hits and you're hitting that center ramp over and over again. Like,
Yeah.
I had a really good time, really, really good time with that game. So, I get you. But yes, I've had the same thing. Well, it's usually, I mean, George will probably agree. There's times where you go to stream a pin that's on the cutting block, and then you stream it and you're like, that game's incredible, and I don't want to leave yet. Or there's other times where you're like, you stream a game, and the moment you turn the cameras off, you're like, this game needs to be out of my house now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, not only that too. Like, I mean, you don't see a lot of people streaming. Like, there's not a lot of people that stream Led Zeppelin anymore too. So I also like to try and have games that I can stream that a lot of other streamers don't. So like, you'll typically see me if, for example, Godzilla with the huge things for a while, and a lot of people were streaming that. So I sort of avoided streaming it to try and stream other stuff and doing different things.
Did Mike's audio just get really muddy?
What's
I want to make
Yeah.
sure. I just moved my mic, and all of a sudden it went really, really muddy.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. I think you're good. Is he good?
Maybe.
I don't know if he's so good.
Scott, this is one of the Stern advertising insider connected little placards that they give arcades. So that's what that is. Mike, say whatever you want.
Whatever.
No, he's muddy. That's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
you're-
you know what? It might have been my printer just went off. My daughter's trying to print something, and it's so loud. It's like a lazy. So
Weird. We'll give it a second. Maybe it'll change. Or George is thinking. I can tell.
No, I was just gonna say it's still really muffled for me. I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
making out what Mike is saying.
It sounds like you're underwater all of a sudden.
for you, for all three of you.
Yeah. Just you, man. Sorry, but check your cables, make sure they're all in and everything. But hey, while you work on that, we're gonna go ahead and go to George. George, it has been a very long time since I've talked to you on this, and I know George, you used to be streaming. What was it, like 3 times a week, and then you kind of took a break for a little while. So I'm glad you're back. And I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. Glad to be back. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is George. I usually stream on a channel called Don't Panic Flip on Twitch. Occasionally jump in with these 3 other beautiful people, or a rotating group of other people every once in a while. But yeah, took a break, took like a month and a half off, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
No pinball, honestly. I think at all during that time, short of I hosted some of Zoe's friends for a sleepover, and they got really interested in pinball for a night. Other than that, I don't think I touched pinball in a month and a half, and it was good.
Yeah, everybody on here. I mean, I know Craig is prepping. He spends a lot of work for his segment of the pinball show. But like, I know Mike is streaming. Was streaming rather consistently. I stream rather consistently. George does, and I know it's kind of a. I think Mike, it's starting to pick up the speakers. Is what I think it is. Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's why it's canceling.
Mhm.
But anyways, for any of us that stream on a consistent schedule, there can be burnout. I mean, that can be a thing of like, I am tired, but you know what? I'm supposed to stream tonight. And, nobody wants to watch somebody stream that's tired. Doesn't want to be there. But luckily, that's why I think chat is so incredible. Like every time, even if I'm not feeling well or tired, the moment chat shows up and you realize you're hanging out with friends, it's awesome. It's a great time. I find it very uplifting, but and that I'm only streaming 1, maybe 2 times a week. I used to, but George, you were streaming 3 times a week, so I don't blame you at all for taking a month off, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it was 5 years, 3 times a week, and a couple of extra ones thrown in there, and yeah, just thought it was time to take a step back, focus on family, work, honestly. Was able to make some changes there. New position at work has been a tad stressful, and also honestly, gym. that's
Just
that's
working
been
out,
it. There was
yeah.
a huge push to run a half marathon back in April, and I think that, and also trying to maintain the stream was it helped get me to a point where I felt kind of burnt out, but feeling better now.
I get you. George's Don't Panic Flip on Twitch. Mike is Pinballers on Twitch, and then Craig does not stream. Craig does the Pinball Show. That's the podcast. He does that. Well, cool. Well, George,
Old
I'm glad
school.
you're
We call
here.
that old school.
Oh, yeah. But do you feel? I mean, after a month of no playing, were you like itching to play? Were you coming back and like looking at your collection, and be like, I want this to be twice as big, or I want this to be half as big? I mean, were there any big thoughts that came after not touching a pinball machine for a month and a half?
Oh yeah, it's been difficult. I'm down to 3 machines from 8.
Oh,
and during that time, I also, what helped actually was I got what's called a Polycade, which is a it's like a MAME cabinet, but they have their own software and it integrates with Steam.
okay.
So I've been over there playing that a ton. So I've got one half of the room now dedicated to old school arcade cabinets and the other half on pinball. And what happened when I noticed I was kind of ready to start coming back, is I actually started going back to Pinside and like looking at games, being like, do I really need Walking Dead right now? I think I need a 4th machine in here. I think 4 is maybe the magic number. Is 4 enough? Maybe it's 5.
Yep.
Maybe it's 5.
Yep.
I think 5 is maybe the appropriate number of games to have where I don't get overly bored of one of them. So those questions started to happen.
It's hard. I mean, I respect the heck out of you, Craig, for putting whatever 3 gazillion plays on your Avengers, because having one pin, I mean, one pin is better than no pins. Don't get me wrong, but when you have one pin, you know, if that pin kicks you in the nuts on your first game, you don't want to play pinball the rest of the night. You just are like, I'm done. But as soon as you get 2 pins, and it's like, I'm done with you, and you can step over to your other game and play that for a little while. So I'm actually appreciative that I am limited to only 4 pins here in the basement. Like it really forces me to play them and rotate them well. But yeah, no, I don't. I know, George, you've gone up and down with your the number of games you've had, and then you got Mike over there who's like, he's got so many. It's awesome. Yeah, it's
you know what? It's not always awesome, because I do come downstairs and I look at the games. I do, like in the other room, I have 11 set up. It's a pretty tight fit. It's normally not a should have like probably too many. And I come down and I'm like, okay, what am I going to play? Sometimes I just can't figure out what I'm going to play. And I actually, I think I just
you have too many games.
You know, and go and end up doing something else sometimes. It's not always a big thing, you know. Sometimes it's a smaller collection. Unfortunately, they get really knowledgeable with the games. But, you know, I've had games that I've forgotten the real spec on that I've owned, right? Because I've had, you know, a lot of games that come through here, and because I play enough different games, you know, such that you kind of have a good grasp on it. You sometimes forget them.
Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt. We can understand.
Bad.
It's bad. We can understand some of it or a good bit of it, but what I would say is I'm going to transition into the game. So let me introduce that. If you want to hop out of Discord and hop back in, maybe that would
okay.
be...
I'm gonna try and grab a different host.
Okay. So while he does that, because it's going to mess up all the cameras, I want to talk about our games. Let me see if he's still there. But no, George, and I see people talking about it. Having an arcade cabinet is awesome. Like I have a Chulix. It's a knockoff Vulix cabinet, which is like the Japanese arcade sit-down 2-player arcade cabinets, and I just have a Pandora's box in there. But just having access to all those old games is pretty sick. Now I don't have the link to Steam and the achievements and all that, but that thing gets played more by my by the kids, basically. Anybody that comes over here to play, like, they just go straight to video games. So I think having something like that is pretty awesome.
The retro arcade games are fun, but the Steam integration, I'm playing Hades and Ape Out are the 2 games where I'm addicted to Ape Out right now. It is gorgeous, fun, and it has this like just one more try, just one more try. I can make it further. And actually, I figured out I've been streaming both Pinball and Ape Out the past week and a half.
Is this a 3D
and it's been
game?
so much fun.
Ape Out on Steam?
Ape Out. Yeah, it's really hard to
Is this it?
describe. That's it. Yes.
So you're playing this with a joystick, though?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's the biggest thing that's hard is understanding.
You got to find games.
Yeah, what games actually work well with that type of controller. Like, yeah, this actually looks pretty slick. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, it's so it doesn't. What you're seeing right now is fun and it's gory and it's bloody, but the music in Ape Out changes or the drums that get played in the background because it has this weird integration with a record player. So as you're doing things, the drums get kind of crazy to the moves that you're performing. It is, and then that happens right there. You saw where all the colors change.
This actually looks pretty sick.
The most fun I think I've had playing any kind of a platform style game. It's so great.
I'm gonna have to give that a shot. Ray Day's here. He showed up. So Ray Day, what's there flipping out with friends where you all discuss if pinball is too easy? No, no is the answer. No, we have not had one of those. Ray Day, we were just talking about how Craig is really struggling without his rush. I think I heard that Ray was the one that decided to stop selling the game. I think that was.
Damn you, Ray.
I think that was it.
Damn it.
But okay, Ape Out. Okay, I definitely want to check that out. That looks pretty sick. Okay, so Ray Day brings this up. That's the title of the episode. The question is pinball too hard? Is pinball too hard? And what prompted all of this, and what's funny, is this actually came up with this post, and multiple people saw this post. And this was on Stern Pinball Enthusiast. It says right here, I have two friends who are about to sell their Foo Fighter pins out of frustration. I must say, I'm not very comfortable with mine either. It's a great game, one of the best I've ever owned, but gosh, it's hard. Slingshots are playing ping pong and out, and you miss a ramp out. I am at 130 games, and I haven't seen Austin or DC yet. Well, I consider it a challenge, and code is still very young. We knew this was an interesting post because a lot of people reacted to it, and there were a lot of comments. And so by saying something like this, my initial response to this post was, what? Like it was a, what? Because Foo Fighters to me, my initial impressions with Foo Fighters when I played it at TPS was I was like, this thing shoots great. Like I really enjoyed how it shot. I felt it was fair. I thought it was like an enjoyable experience. And then the code, I mean, sure, it's Ray Day code, you know, but I love the code. I think the code's great. I had Ray Day on stream and he explained even more nuances to it. I thought it was easy to understand. And I know my level of play, and I have seen Austin and DC, and I saw those relatively quickly in my playing experience. So to me, I was like, okay, I've hit the halfway point. Like I think this is a game that if I really grind it away, I think I could probably beat it, or get to the wizard mode. So to me, I was very energized with its level of difficulty. I really enjoyed that. So that surprised me. That surprised me by that. And what I've come to learn in our little discussion in the background, it sounds like George, Craig, and Mike all agree with me that we don't really consider Foo Fighters to be a hard game. So that kind of prompted this, and we're going to go down that direction. But what I will encourage for that guy, I would absolutely encourage him, check the pitch of your game. If you think your slingshots are too powerful, you can separate the leaf switches a tiny bit and neuter them, a tiny bit, so they're not as powerful, or you can turn them down. It's your game. Set it to a difficulty that's enjoyable for you. Same thing, Joel install. Yes, right. Go to the code, set it to easy mode or home mode or whatever it is. Or look at your outlane posts. You can close those a little bit. Do something to make the game enjoyable. I just think I would hate for you to sell a good game before you make any attempt to make it more fun for yourself. So I don't know, thoughts on that post specifically, guys, before we break into each individual game. How about Mike? I just want to hear you talk. It still sucks, man. Did you drop off Discord? You haven't dropped off Discord.
I'm actually going to reboot him. I think my mic should be in the thing, so
okay. That printer really effed him up, let me tell you. That printer.
Damn that Bluetooth.
God, that would be hilarious. Extra hard, normal, easy, Joel. Yeah. If you want to if Carl gets his own mode, the hard mode, I wouldn't even be insulted if Joel became the other one. But anyways, I don't know. Either of you guys, thoughts on thoughts on that, on that specific post. If you knew one of your friends was complaining about a game like that, what would you suggest?
I would start maybe at trying to figure out, is it a lack of understanding of the rule set, or is it the layout, and the layout seems too brutal, or it's causing too many drains.
Okay.
Right. And if
Yep.
it's rule set, I would want to walk somebody through and be like, it's not that difficult, it's this. And if it's that there's too many drains, meaning you're not having fun actually playing the game, or because it's just draining too much, then it's the other things, Joel, that you mentioned. You can close up the lanes if you need to. Is the pitch way too high? Is the pitch way too low? Is it way too floaty and you're getting a lot more bounce than you should? Sometimes it can be just as equally awful to have too flat, or a game not pitched enough.
Yeah.
So maybe I would start there. Also, it could just be one of those Stern things where some games play amazing and some games don't, and they happen to get one that doesn't, like, the geometry is slightly out of whack. I've had 3 Jurassic Parks,
Yep.
I've had 3 Jurassic Parks, I think, at this point, and I've had 2 that played amazing, and I've had 1 that consistently played awful all the time. And so it's not unheard of for Stern to put out a game that just doesn't. I can't get specific about it. It could be like a warp play field. It could just be that the flippers are slightly misaligned from the start, and now none of the shots line up. So I would look at some of those things.
And Pinmonk, said that it could be a concave or convex playfield. I know you had that issue with your Jurassic Park. Hopefully that guy can bring out a level or a ruler just to see if that is a problem. But other things that I'm seeing in chat though here is TNA. People are saying like TNA, which is in my mind a hard game, can really teach you a lot of just basic pinball skills and really force you to play better. I mean, so I agree with that. Mike, you're back. Let's hear.
Can you hear me?
Hey there, look at that. What was it?
I think, you know what, my laptop's just been on all day, and I use my laptop for more than just this, so it probably just needed to be rebooted. It was just doing weird things. My cursor was moving. Anyways,
okay.
We're good.
You sound great. You look great. You sound great. Tell your daughter don't print anything.
Yeah. I must have been it.
No. I don't know if you had, I know you were distracted, Mike, with obviously everything going on, but for that specific post, if you heard of a friend or somebody that was complaining about a game, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that, on suggestions or?
On that post, you mean?
Yeah, so that specific post for him and 2 of his friends to be talking about, like, I think I need to sell this game, or I think I'm over this game because it's too hard. I don't know, is there any, I doubt you've had a game that's too hard because you're like good at pinball, but I don't for people that complain.
For me, I enjoy hard games. Like I like to have at least 1 or 2 hard games because I need to get my ass kicked a lot. It helps you. I found, like, with Black Knight, which I've had for a number of years, I've probably become a better pinball player mostly because of that game. And the difficulty I found with it. So I I like having hard games, but I understand where he's coming from, because you can have a game that's hard but fun to play, which I find Black Knight to be, but maybe he's not having fun with it as well. Like, it's hard and he may not be having fun either.
But it is a good question. The question there is why? Like, why? Why is he not having fun? So what is it
Yeah,
about
that's what you got to ask. Is he not having fun because the shots aren't fun? Is it not, like, I think you were talking about the pitch or something of the game? Is it set up properly? The settings proper? Like, you can change the difficulty settings on certain things. Tons of different things you can do with the settings just to try and get the game to play that you would expect or want it to. So I don't know if this person has tried doing anything with the settings or anything like that, but that would be something I would suggest, to say mess around with the settings, get it to, you can make it easier or harder if you want, just play around with it and see and get it to where you like it. And then
I would say the 2 thing that he specifically said, the slings, that's something you can tweak. You can tweak if he thinks the slings are too much. But then the second thing, if his goal is to get to Austin or DC, then what's the problem? Is it because there's stuff built in place where that first city you play should be relatively easy to beat. Especially if you power up your van first, or even just focus on getting 1 or 2 of the bomb shots. Like, he should be able to blow through some of those cities relative. So maybe it is a mixture of maybe his game is set up a little too hard with pitch or slings, and then maybe just understanding the rules of there's things he can do to make his life a little easier to get through those. So we'll blame Ray for that, right? We're all in agreement. That's a Ray.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
it's
Raymond
always
Davidson
Ray's fault.
problem. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
right into Stern. I think it's raydaysucks@sternpinball.com. And that's how you get a hold of him. I think that's right.
Is that with CKS or with an X?
I think they both work. I think they have.
Okay.
Triple X.
Yeah. Okay, so tonight's game, and I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see what chat thinks. But tonight's game is we want to try to quantify hardness of games. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you guys can see this decently. It's a beautiful white screen, very colorful. I will tell you, I'll give you a brief glimpse here. George actually did some really cool colors, and so did Mike. But we are just going to do white. We're going to do a white screen here. So the thought here is we're trying to quantify a difficulty level. But the more that we talked about this, we realized we had to break it up. I misspelled GTF. No, I didn't. GTF. What are you talking about, Ray? Anyways, it's I missed the I know what he's saying. There it is. Got it. Okay. So we realized we had to break this up. We had to break this up in both layout and code, because I think when people say this game is hard, well, why? Is it hard because you feel like you're shooting and you look up and you've gone nowhere, you haven't progressed anywhere, so it's a code-based thing, or a misunderstanding of code or how to get anywhere in the code? Or is it like you plunge, you hit one shot, you brick, and you drain? So is it a layout issue? Like, I'm just struggling to find the shots. Perfect example of that is when George played Hot Wheels. That was perfect example, because Hot Wheels and George did not mix. The two of them, I've never seen George brick so much than watching him stream Hot Wheels.
I could never find a shot on that game. It was like every shot was at a percentage down the flipper that my mind had no ability to flip at whatsoever. I could not find anything on that game for 3 months.
Yeah, I know. I love it. So anyways, this system, my thought was to rate it 1 to 10. And it's not, you can tell there's more than 10 games here. So this is when we go game by game. Chat, feel free to share what your thoughts are. But really, when you label something 1 to 10, you have to have a easiest game of the list, and you have to have a hardest game of the list. So if we look at the list, this upper section here is these are all the current games that are being sold by the major manufacturers. So those are the major manufacturers. And then I went ahead. These are still games that are readily available unless you're in Canada, because there's Rush on this. You have Toy Story, Led Zeppelin, some of these, but they're still relatively modern. And then I went ahead and put the CGC games, just because I think Monster Bash, Attack from Mars, and Medieval Madness are kind of just like staples. So yes. So we're going to go layout first. We'll go with, let's start with easy. And if we have 1 or 2, that's easy. So this is going to be a 1. So hard for novice, easy for top ranked players. No, yeah. So what layout, when you read these, and I increased the font to try to make it better for the viewer, which of these layouts do you feel the majority of people could step up to and they feel like a god? They are just hitting shots. Do any of these particular games stand out when it comes to the layout that you guys can think of?
Do you want to go in order, or you just want us to shout over one another?
Sure, George. Which one of these games really stands out to you as like the easiest layout or the easiest thing to shoot?
I would say Elvira and Black Knight, I think, and I'm thinking of Black Knight Pro, are the easiest layouts.
Okay.
If you don't, and I do want to put a caveat. Black Knight is tough, but it's tough because it forces you to hit certain shots that are very scary. The layout itself, none of those shots are difficult. There's no single difficult shot on Black Knight.
So this really surprised me, George, when I saw your list, because I agree with you on Elvira. Do you either of you, Craig or Mike, do you guys agree on that? Like, there are people that complain that Elvira is like, you feel like a god when it's almost too flowy. Do you agree with Elvira being
No, my thoughts were the same on Elvira. I actually hummed and hawed between getting one and
Okay.
I was worried about getting too bored because when I play the game at friends' houses, it just flows so nice. The shots are good,
Yeah.
but it's easy. Most of the shots are easy to hit in that game. So I don't disagree with that at all.
So, and Ray Day is agreeing with me, and Mike, maybe you can't. But George, you've had Black Knight. I do not consider Black Knight an easy layout. I don't
Wait,
like.
what's the tough
no.
shot though?
But it's
Okay,
not.
so
Go ahead,
it's
Mike.
not. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you go because I have lots
know
of
his
thoughts on that. So
Maybe it's
you
just
go
because the
first.
shots are so close that it's like when you miss, you're screwed. Like you're in trouble. If you hit the shot, it's normally somewhat of a safe return. But you think of how many you're hitting a flail, which is bringing it back at you. You're hitting a shield, which is coming right back at you. Like so many of these shots are close and just boom, right back. I don't know. That's why I find it to be a dangerous layout personally.
Excellent points, by the way. Sorry, I'm not negating those. I'm just I don't think of the stand up that's right there as a shot on the game. I guess I avoid it.
Okay.
So there's like 4 or 5 other shots you can hit. You can easily backhand the shield into the scoop. The right and left orbits are really easy. The center shot when the flail isn't going too crazy. Honestly, the flail so rarely ever interacts or hits the ball. I never got too scared about that. And that's what I was saying. The code, as you progress through the game, it forces you to hit the stand up in front of the Black Knight more often. So it's interesting. Black Knight I have as a difficult rule set, but I don't see the layout itself as being tough. Okay. And I guess I was comparing it to, for comparison's sake, like Jurassic Park, the O shot is actually tough to hit. Like that is a tough to hit shot, and none of that exists on Black Knight. But a point I wasn't really thinking about was the fact that some of the shots that you do have to hit are so close that recovery is really tough. I have it as a difficult overall game. I just don't have it labeled as difficult because of the layout.
And I'm reading chat here. Ray Day agrees with me. I actually had a chance to play a Black Knight just over the weekend, and it was a similar thing. Like I loved what I was experiencing when the modes, but the moment I missed, I was in trouble. But I don't know, Mike, you may have the most experience with Black Knight. It's still in your like out of a 1 to 10. Where are you putting Black Knight when it comes to layout?
So I just streamed it actually last week, and where I put it as far. See, I agree with both of you. It's really hard to explain.
So maybe it's a 5, right in the middle.
Okay, so every single shot in the game is attainable through backhand or forehand. Every single shot, all the orbits, everything. So, that makes it an easier player when it comes to layout. But and then I go to your comment and say, the shots are closer to the flippers. So if you miss, or even if you hit, because you have to hit that center target, or you have to light the lock with the other target, those are closer to the flipper, and you're not going to make progress to the game without doing that. So because those are closer to the flipper, I feel like and I even wrote all this in my explanation, but it feels like you're playing defensively more in Black Knight than you are in any other game. And that to me is because of the way the layout is, because the ball is bouncing off a sling. It's bouncing off a sling, but then it's hitting a shot that's really close and coming back down really quick. So you're really having to play really quick, which makes it challenging. But like the shots are not easy. I would definitely give this an easy layout score, but
overall, I think we're seeing with George. So we need to almost put an asterisk next to that. So if we just focus, because we're going to go by game here. So if we just focus overall, I think we agree Elvira is a number 1. And I think like Attack from Mars would be another layout. It's as fan as you can get. The shots are really far back. I don't know. Do you feel that Attack from Mars from a layout standpoint would be right there at kind of the top? And to be honest, I think Cactus Canyon may be another one where it's like, you do have the drops in the middle that can be, those shots can come back pretty quick, but like Attack from Mars, I think because of where the shots are, in my mind, Pinmonk's saying Attack from Mars can be brutal. I mean, all these games are meant to make you drain, right? I mean, that's a thing, but I'm just trying to think of layout of what do you think is for anybody to step up and they feel like they're hitting what they want to hit. Do we just stick with Elvira as a 1 and go with and we just move on? Is that the only game we agree on that's just like makes you feel good when you play it?
I think Elvira's shots are easier slightly than Attack from Mars, but similar, even in layout as well.
Okay. Then we'll
So
come back to it then. So if that's on the easy end, we need to rate a 10. So who do we feel, and maybe Craig, what are your thoughts out of this list? Which one of these games do you feel is just a brutal game, just a brutal layout?
Probably TMNT. That's one of the harder ones, I would say, that I've played. Still a lot of fun, but it is pretty unforgiving, I think, when I played it. As a lot of board games are, So that one would be up there. Avengers is hard. I don't think, not so much because of the layout, but just because of the rule set that's involved with it, and what you have to sort of understand about it in order to get any distance in the game.
I think I'm gonna go, unless George or Mike disagrees strongly, but TMNT, I think the majority of what I've read, most people say Turtles is hard. Like Turtles is a hard. Do you agree with that? And I think I do think Borg made a challenging, fast layout with Turtles.
Yep.
Okay. So look at our colors. Our colors changed. So Elvira on the easy end, TMNT on the hard end. I don't know. George can blow up Turtles, but I don't.
I love Turtles, but Turtles is one of the most difficult games out there.
Okay, you have it as difficult. Got it.
I definitely have it as difficult, but it's like a shortcoming of the design. How many rejects do you get trying to shoot the van where it rattles and comes back down the middle? And for whatever reason, that upper flipper hitting any of those shots from the upper flipper is so difficult. If you compare it to honestly anything else Stern has done, it's weird to get the timing. Every once in a while you can get it, and I can get consistency on that. But those two things I feel like on TMNT make it, especially the van, all of the rejects and how often you can hit it perfectly under the van and kick out another ball down that left orbit, and not get credit only for the lock, but you also end up getting a wild ball kicked out to the left orbit. Like that game has issues, and I think that is why it's difficult, not because the layout and the design was intended to be that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and but I think we agree there. So should we just focus on layout? Should we just roll through on layout, or do you want to go ahead and establish a 1 and a 10 in code as well? And then that way, when we go game by game, we do both layout and code.
I like that.
Okay, so easiest code to understand out of all of this, I think we've got to go with something down here. Like
Monsters.
Monsters code is very easy. Monsters code is very easy, but it's easy to understand, but it's also shallow. But I would say code wise, so great to see the four talking about pinball tonight. Oh, appreciate it, Zach. I do think it's just, I think I could see Monsters, but I do think Monsters is a tad bit more complex though than like Medieval Madness or Attack from Mars. Medieval Madness and Attack from Mars just hit the same shot over and over again, or bash the thing in the middle, right? I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I would even put Cactus Canyon.
Well, then in that case, you could also put Stranger Things in there too, then, right?
True. There's a little more. I'm just saying, like, if I'm gonna give Attack from Mars a 1, then maybe Stranger Things is like a 2 or 3. You know, like it's not. It's up in that range. But I think when it comes to just easy to digest, understandable code, I think Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness is up there. And then, to be honest, I think Cactus Canyon is pretty easy, like really easy to understand.
It's so funny. I've put like 20 games on Cactus Canyon, maybe 30. I still have no idea how to play it.
It's literally okay. Then maybe Cactus Canyon needs to be about a 2. We'll give you some credit there, George. Okay, so let's go the other side of that though. What code here is hard to understand?
Avengers.
And remember that Raymond Davidson is in chat.
I know. Sorry, Ray.
Avengers.
Avengers.
I don't want to go with Avengers. I want to go with Rush. I feel like, but I don't know.
Beatles all day on Code Ease. Wind Raider, I think you're right. We're gonna get to Beatles. Beatles is pretty high up there. Avengers, I think you're right. Cactus is like, yeah. Okay, I think you're right on Avengers, and I don't. It's not a knock on Avengers because once you get it, the game is incredible. But just to step up and try to figure out what you're gonna do, it is somewhat of a challenge. And I'm sorry if I need to go ahead and burst that bubble. I do think Rush is in this realm of a difficult code to understand. But just to be nice to Ray, I'm going to give it a 9.
Well, I have it marked as difficult, but the biggest difficulty is getting over the records thing at the beginning. That is the only reason I have it as difficult. Otherwise, it is standard nonlinear mode progression with 2 mini wizard modes and an ultimate wizard mode that uses a different counter system. It is actually really simple.
Yeah.
The only major difficulty happens to be one of the biggest initial hindrances to like understanding the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not tough.
I agree. Once you understand records and qualifying records, you can get in. But but this idea of brand new game, it just got dropped in your basement and you're just trying to experience it, it can be a lot early on. Which I think will be an interesting conversation when we get down here at Godfather. Like some of the JJP games can be that way, very overwhelming early on. But yeah. Okay, so I think we've kind of established our working range, right? So let's go ahead. We'll finish out Rush. So do you guys agree? I mean, code, I agree. I think the base of the code, understanding records, is really kind of hard to figure out. But once you've got that and you get in the modes and you see how awesome the modes are, but I get that. But so we're good. Do we agree on an 8? I don't think Ray agrees on an 8, but I don't know. You've put a lot. I don't. We should probably move on because I don't want to talk about Rush with Craig. I know it makes him sad. So Mike, I don't. Do you agree with that on code being challenging for Rush?
Yeah, it is challenging for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's more. I find it more challenging than Avengers myself. But I mean, as a consensus, I mean, it's still challenging.
Okay.
It's definitely, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the layout. I found it hard. John Borg is known for a harder layout, and this was a game that I felt like I understood the code, but I couldn't really experience it because I kept freaking draining, and that was the problem. So I think it's on the higher end of a harder. I'm sorry, it's a harder layout in my mind.
So I saw Mike's response to this, and he had it as difficult, I think, as well. But I'm curious. I think Mike, you have a pro. Is that correct?
I do, yeah.
So, and Joel, did you play a pro or did you play a premium? A pro.
Yeah.
My biggest problem, one of the biggest issues I had with Rush on the LE was that it was too long playing. I'm sorry, I'm going to go the exact opposite. I think there's no difficult shots in that game with the exception of maybe the right ramp. And it was one of those games where despite having Escher over here making sure that the level was like 7.5 degrees, it was still almost too long playing of a game.
I did not have that problem.
I don't disagree with that when you're having a good game, that it can be a long playing game. I do find that the layout is challenging. That the pro, I've played both, and I can definitely say that the pro is more challenging because the VUC is a controlled shot that comes back to your flipper on the wire form. I also feel like the magnet up the middle, so the little ramp that lifts up on the premium and the LE, when it's down, you're just hitting a dead target, and then the ball is coming back down. With the pro, you're going up, the magnet is holding it, and then it's letting it go down this steep ramp, and it's coming down faster at your flippers. Yeah, so I find that even just those two slight differences can definitely change the challenge of the game. The side ramp, I personally have a little bit of trouble with the side ramp on that one for some reason. The upper loop is no problem for me, but the rules, like for me, the code, like the code is what makes it hard with the layout together. But the layout is tough, like X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys play X-Men?
Yep.
That is also a tough game. It's basically the same thing with some small tweaks.
So okay. So it's easier than Turtles. We agree on that, right? Rush is easier than
Yes.
Turtles. Okay. So Ray Day, I'm curious what number you're gonna
2/8.
say. But what
Yeah.
layout wise? What do we think? What did somebody say something?
Craig
8?
Craig's like 2/8.
Yeah. I will agree on that. Ray Day, I'm curious what your number is in chat. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I think it's a challenging game. But yeah. Rush is better
Well,
shooting Turtles. I
yeah, and
agree. The layout is better than Turtles. Turtles is the standard of challenging. I get it.
Well, that's the thing about the list. I mean, just because a game is hard, it doesn't mean like a hard layout doesn't make it a bad game, and an easy layout doesn't make it a bad game either. So we're just sort of rating our
I
thoughts
agree.
on it.
I own Turtles. I love Turtles. So let's go ahead and figure out Turtles. Turtles is a hard shooting game, but in my mind, I think the code is very easy to understand, in my opinion. Like ramp, hit the turtle van, you're in a mode, you hit the yellow shot, you do it again. Like I think
rinse,
you can
repeat.
explain the code. The only thing about the code that can be confusing is the hurry up modes that come into play, and all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? What is 1, 2, 3? What am I supposed to hit? But I'm not going to say it's the easiest code on here, but I do think it is on the easier side of code or understanding code. So if the easiest code to understand, anybody can understand, it's a 1. I'd probably give Turtles, I don't know, 3. I don't know. Thoughts on 3-ish? We agree on that? I'm going to say 3. I think it's not a Cactus Canyon. It's harder. It's harder to understand than Cactus Canyon, but I'm going to go with 3. A little more than that. Okay, we'll go 4.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Dwight. Come on. Okay, so all right.
Yeah,
so,
the only real difficulty from TMNT comes from the ultimate wizard mode, Cowabunga.
yeah,
I'm
George,
just looking
none
at
of-
my notes. So it's non-linear mode progression,
Yeah.
and
Oh my-
the standard wizard mode is easy, and the ultimate wizard mode is kind of arbitrary, weird requirements, kind of like Family Guy.
You're saying to actually qualify it, but bring down the skill level a little bit, George. The ultimate wizard mode is too complicated, so I'm gonna knock it. No, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yes. If the goal though is it's a brand new pen and I want to get in and try to learn and get into this game, I think it's pretty easy to understand how to dive into that game. Personally, the toppings don't make sense. I agree. Toppings, there are areas of the game that can get complex. That's why it's not a 2. But okay. Elvira, on the other hand, Elvira shoots incredibly well. How easy is it? This is Lyman's code. How easy is it to understand what to do and how to do it? I don't have a ton of time on Elvira. I'd have to lean on you guys. Anybody have it? Elvira's code is what we're ranking. What are your thoughts on Elvira's code? We'll go with Mike.
I was waiting to see if anybody else had thoughts on it. So the code is interesting in Elvira. It is deep. I mean, you're talking a Lyman game, so
Yeah.
there's lots of little nuances in the code and whatnot. So it's deep, but not hard, right? So I mean, there's lots of things to do, lots of stuff going on in the game. None of them are really that hard to obtain. From my experience with the game.
Okay. So it's on the easier side.
I would say it's got depth, but none of it is terribly hard to obtain.
All right. So if we're ranking Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness as a 1, Cactus Canyon a 2, Turtles is a 4. Is Elvira easier to do than Turtles? More complicated? More easy? Like, what are your...
It's probably around Turtles, I would say.
Turtles.
I would say it's probably around Turtles.
What do you think, George?
I mean, as far as the
Good one.
ease of the code, I mean,
Yeah.
It's got more depth to it, but again, it's the only reason why it's harder is maybe put it as like a 5, just because there's more there, I guess. But
Zach is saying
it's
4
similar.
because Turtles should have been a 5 or a 6. So Turtles...
Turtles is 8 modes with a mini wizard mode and then a final battle. Like It's so simple.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it just because I know it'll bother Zach.
All right.
It'll bother Zach. All right, so Avengers, Craig, this is your moment, man. You've played this game probably more than the three of us combined. Layout. So difficulty of layout. Were there any shots in Avengers after your 2,000 plus plays that you still found challenging and consistently hard to hit?
What was the shot? So some people have trouble with the Captain Marvel ramp if they've got the premium.
I
That's
thought
probably
honestly Captain America through
yeah.
the pops. I thought that's a hard shot.
Yeah, that's a really tough shot to get consistent with. But yeah, I'd put it maybe like at a. It's harder than a 5. I'd call it maybe like a 7 to 8.
7 to 8
in that range in terms of the layout. Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I like 7. I'll give you that. I think it's Rush is harder, is a harder layout than Avengers in my opinions, but Avengers is still a tough layout, definitely.
To me, it was when I started streaming it, and I almost think of some of these games, like if I feel like I'm feeling the game the first time I stream it, it's like I feel like I found those shots rather quickly, and it instantly makes the games more fun. Avengers was like, it took me time to learn it, and it took me time to find all the shots. So yes, I think I agree on that. What?
I have a thought on that, which is that the biggest reason that I feel like Rush is difficult is a learning curve. It has a steep learning curve around something as simple as just hitting records to start a mode.
Okay.
Once you take away the records, that game is really simple.
Okay.
Same thing with I would say Jurassic Park. There's an initial steep learning curve, and then the game is pretty straightforward afterwards. Now, Jurassic Park is the most amazing game ever. So and it has depth, and the fact that you can run 3 different chains all at the same time or at different points, it's amazing. But it has an initial learning curve. Avengers doesn't have an initial learning curve. A good chunk of the game is focused on the getting gems and placing them.
Yeah.
And you have to understand the ins and outs of how the gems work to know where to place them to make the most sense. Now, what's really cool about that I know Keith has talked about is you can completely avoid gems and still progress through the game. So if we are ignoring parts that aren't necessary to get to the standard wizard mode, then I would agree it's not difficult. But there's such a huge component of the game dedicated. It's like half modes and half gems. And for gems, I still have no idea where to put gems in that game. I just place them, and every once in a while, I feel like the game takes them away because of reasons, and I've never really figured it out. And it's not an initial learning curve; it's more than that. Whereas it is just an initial learning curve for Jurassic Park and Rush, which I also see as being difficult.
I will say, and the only reason we're not saying. The fact that we've put Avengers at 10 for code isn't a knock on the game. It's not saying that's bad. To me though, I streamed the heck out of Avengers when I had it, and I played it just the other day, and I remember stepping up to it and I was thinking like, crap, what is it that I do again? Like, it's just that complexity. I knew how to start a mode, but then the complexity there, I remember it's gone. And I don't know, George, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. We did code on Rush. I didn't catch that we jumped to the other side on Avengers, and we were talking about layout, not code.
No, you're fine.
So sorry.
You're fine. Okay, so we finished that. Cactus Canyon, I will tell you, I've played the heck out of that. I think the layout, I'm not going to give it a 1 because it has the, what is it, the Scarelli brothers, the essentially the drops that pop up to shoot the bad guys. Scaleri brothers
from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, those are shots that you can get hit by, but overall, I think the layout is very forgiving. I would put it as, I don't know, probably like a 2, maybe a 3. Like I think it's on the easier side. I don't know if any of you guys have put a time on Cactus Canyon, but Cactus Canyon in my mind is like, you just step up and have a good time. Like it's a fun time. And then to scroll down to finish these guys out, is there a layout? So if Elvira is number 1, where are we putting Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness? Are they're probably not to that level, but I would assume both of them are on the easier side. Do we agree on that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking? 3s maybe? 2s, 3s, 4s? We'll go with George. What do you want to do on Attack from Mars? Why not? I've never owned it. Have any of you guys owned Attack from Mars?
I had snow and Paul's for
Never.
like 3 or 4 months.
Okay. What are you?
I played the hell out of both of them though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never owned either.
It does have a sucker shot. I see that Zach said that right up the middle. Let's give it a. Zach, you've played Cactus Canyon and Attack from Mars. Which one has a harder layout? And then what about between the two of you guys? Which one do you think between Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness? Which one has a harder layout?
Medieval.
Medieval. So if we put that as a 3,
Only because Medieval has the trolls.
correct. Yeah, maybe that's a 2. I don't know. We may adjust those. Okay, so I think that should fit. That kind of fills out our extremes. I think easy shooter Cactus is easier than Attack from Mars. I agree. Okay, Sterling's getting one tomorrow, dude. That's awesome. What a great game. So that brings us to the game that questioned everything, right? It started everything. Medieval's harder than the other two, so maybe Medieval's a 4. Why not? We can adjust all these. Why not? Okay, so we're gonna just work our way from top to bottom. Foo Fighters. So now that we've really kind of broken that down, let's go with Mike, just because you have one. We'll start with that, but. Layout and code. What are your thoughts? We'll start with layout. Layout of Foo Fighters.
Layout of Foo Fighters. I think it's an easier layout in my opinion. I think it's easier than average. I've said it before. The side ramp and the upper flipper is actually, I'm probably more consistent on that shot than any other similar shot in any other game. I can hit that one. I can almost spinner ramp over and over again a lot in that game, and I feel like a lot of people can. It's just he got the geometry perfect in the sweet spot for that shot, so I find that's easy. The only tough shot might be the right ramp because of how steep it is.
Yep. The right ramp is a
You
challenge.
just get some rejects there just because of how steep it is. But other than that, I don't think there's like any really hard shots. The left ramp, you can backhand it inside the Overlord. You can backhand inside there. Sometimes the way it rattles out, you might have to deal with some straight down the middle stuff. The drop targets can be iffy if they're coming at it, if your ball's coming at it from the right because the way they're angled. But if you're coming up at the drop targets, it's not too bad. So there's a couple, spots you want to avoid, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty friendly layout.
I agree. George, you've put time on it.
Mike nailed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Craig, have you played it? Have you played Foo?
I have. I played it a little bit when I went to get my expression lighting kit for my non-existent rush machine, and I got a few games on it, and I was I was pleasantly surprised with it, that it was I thought more approachable than a lot of the recent new Stern games. So I thought a lot of the shots were very obtainable. It wasn't as easy, I don't think, as an Attack from Mars or Medieval Madness, but it was certainly easier than I'd say most of the Keith Elwin games. So yeah, a 4 or 5 in that zone.
I agree. I think 4 sounds good. I think it's harder than Cactus Canyon just because, I will agree that right ramp is a challenge, and the right orbit but it's a fun shot when you hit it. But it's I would still absolutely call it an easier game. And I'm just going to throw everybody for a loop here. But Foo Fighters reminds me a lot of Deadpool. So I want to just say Deadpool right now. Let's go ahead and say the layout of Deadpool. Layout of Deadpool, because I want to do code of Foo Fighters and code of Deadpool. So layout of Deadpool. George, you can go first because I know you've owned it. Layout of Deadpool. Where do you think that falls?
Sure. Yeah, comparable to Foo Fighters. There's, once again, no difficult shots in Deadpool. Assuming that you have the pitch set appropriately, so that way you can hit the katana lock shot.
The katana lock, I think, is the hardest main shot, but the schnick shot is harder than any. In my mind, it's harder than any shot in Foo Fighters. Personally, I could never get that consistent. But that's just me. Zach's saying it's hard.
Did you have the bracket?
I did, and I don't know. It was just maybe part of me, I just had a mental block of like, I don't care about points. And that shot was never needed in the game besides for points. Like there was never a mode where you had to hit the schnick shot. So I just didn't really focus on it. But if I really grind it away. So comparable, maybe Deadpool's a solid, like right at the average point, kind of a, I don't know. Or do we need to move a whole bunch of level? Do you think Deadpool's on the easier side? Do you think it's on the
No, I think that's
harder
a good
side?
spot. Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference between Deadpool and Foo Fighters, what you're comparing it to, they both have a center spinner up the middle.
Yeah.
On Foo Fighters, it feeds your upper flipper where you can hit that side ramp fairly consistency, like we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Safe feed. Whereas the Deadpool center spinner will whip around, and unless you're like a live catch expert,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to deal with the feed coming out of there. So
Yeah, there was a
I
video.
give Deadpool just a slight nudge.
There was a video of me playing Deadpool and struggling with that feed as it hits my left flipper straight to the right outline over and
Yep.
over and over again.
Yep.
I think I agree with that. I do think Deadpool is still a very approachable layout. Part of me wants it to be less than a 5 just because I still think it's an easier layout, but I think it's more challenging than Foo. I almost want to move Foo Fighters up to like a 3 and put Deadpool at a 4, but then Cactus Canyon's easier than Foo. This is dumb. But anyways, okay, this is why this game's fun, right? So back to Foo on code. Raid A code, everybody. Raid A code. I personally, I think the code's very easy to understand, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, if you want to get into
van, start mode, complete mode.
Yeah, but if you want to get into like the Foo bot, like, okay, well, what is it exactly? If we're gonna quiz each other, how do you get the left leg of the Foo bot? Like, there is complexity there, but I don't think this code's. I mean, I'd put it comparable to Turtles. There's plenty of other things to keep you to dive into, but overall, just like get in and play the game. I would put it on the easier side. I don't.
Of course, you got to go with the caveat that the code isn't finished yet, right? And we're doing this based on the code that it's currently at. So,
if the Foobot is going to be required to hit Overlord, then it becomes more complicated.
I would assume Overlord is just once you get. Well, I don't know. So if you get through 4 cities, or is it 3? 3 cities, you get to 1. And then if you get through the other 3,
Austin or DC.
If you get the other 3, I'm assuming you do the other one, Austin or DC.
Yep.
But then that's it. There's no. You're gonna have to do something else to get to Overlord, right?
I don't know. We've done all that in the game, and that's it. It's just it's. Okay. So there could be there's like a wizard mode, and then after that the you fight the Overlord or something like that. Who knows? We'll see.
I don't. Maybe it's worth giving Foo 5 just because there is some complexity there. Like but I'm maybe set that as a just straight average level of difficulty. I don't find that. Well, I mean, maybe because we're above average players, we don't find that particularly difficult to understand the code. But it's yes, and I did call myself an above average player. But I don't know. Foo is an easier shooter, but man, it can be punishing. It can. Yeah. Yes. If you miss, I mean, a lot of these. Yeah. I don't know. I'm good with a 5-ish, right around. I got eliminated in Oklahoma last week. Come on, Ray. That's your game, man. So let's compare it to Deadpool, though. Is the Foo Fighter code harder or easier to understand than Deadpool?
Harder.
I think I agree with that. Deadpool's pretty.
The only reason why I say that is because the battles and everything, like, I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah, the scoop is lit.
It's like plain and obvious what you need to do. In Foo Fighters, it took me a few times playing through modes to, I mean, I could read the rules if I wanted to, but that's not what I do. I play and I learn the rules by playing.
Yeah.
So it took me a few times to figure out what each mode did in Foo Fighters, whereas, Deadpool is like you're starting a battle. Oh, 3 yellow shots for Sabretooth. Hit those over and over and over and over again.
I'm going to give it a 3, and that's just because I think it's easier than Turtles, even. Deadpool, like, the scoop is lit. You can fall right into the scoop and be in a battle immediately. And once you're in it, then it's, I don't know. George has a thought.
So Deadpool's a little funky. It's really confusing when I have to describe to people that you have to fight the same 3 people again a second time, but the second time it gets more difficult.
Yeah.
So once again, if we're talking about getting to the first wizard mode, not the ultimate, but just mode progression to get to the first wizard mode, it's a little bit more roundabout because you have to get to Mega Crackalodontosaurus Rex.
Mhm.
You also have to get you also have to collect a certain number of weapons in order to get to Mech Suit. And then you have to go through all 3 of the modes 3 times and complete both of the quests. As opposed to assuming Foo Fighters, you just have to complete the 6 modes and
Yeah.
survive both of the mini wizard multi-balls. I think Deadpool's a little bit more complicated, but it's not. But it's so easy right out of the box because the game starts you
Yeah.
with a
scoop
mode lit.
Yeah. Tex, how you doing,
But
man?
there is a
Things are
lot
good.
Deadpool.
There is a lot to Deadpool, and maybe a good way. Maybe if I don't want to completely change our thought process here, but I know the original Facebook post was talking about he hasn't seen Austin or DC, so he's just shooting for like the mini wizard mode, like that's. So he's talking about the first half of the game, right? Is where he's struggling. So maybe that's a way when we're talking about how easy is it to understand the first half of the game, the first like for you to get into it. Because some of the things we were ignoring, like you were saying with Turtles, like Turtles, the ultimate wizard mode is kind of complicated. It's like, well, maybe let's focus on how easy is it to just jump in. Because I think very early on, Avengers can be complicated or Rush can be complicated, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
just a thought. But okay, I think we're doing a great job discussing these. I hope chat's enjoying this, but we've got a lot to go through. Let's go with. I'm going to go with Godzilla. Craig, you've got your baby behind you. What was your initial thoughts when you stepped up to it on the difficulty of the layout? I'm guessing you felt it was easier than Avengers.
Yep. Not quite as easy as I thought it would be, just by looking at it, but still fairly straightforward, I think. So I'd put it probably at around a 6.
6, okay. So it's if we're going with average though,
5 or 6. 5 or 6.
Okay. 5. So you think it's a similar layout and difficulty to a Deadpool, but you think it's harder than Foo Fighters?
Yes, I do.
Which I was gonna say, I was like, what shot's harder than Foo Fighters? And I like the left spinner, man. The left, and we need to talk about the topper more. I freaking love this topper.
Well,
mainly, I love the way it looks, but the mode it adds is a blast, and we can get into that. But I don't. Okay.
So I think the hardest shot on that game, actually, it still frustrates the shit out of me, is actually the call it.
Tail
It's where you
whip?
start the modes. No, it's where you start the
just
modes.
the
It's
scoop? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I just find that shot. I cannot.
Okay. So maybe it is.
If there's any shot that scares me on that game and that frustrates the shit out of me when you actually need to get in there, is that scoop. So it's never. I'd never find that shot a gimme. Like I'm always holding my breath to see if I can get it in there. It's never like, oh no problem, I'm just gonna throw it in the scoop.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know. I just find that shot.
I hadn't thought about that.
Super unpredictable. I've had so many games too where you fire it in there and it fires it out, it's so easy to ricochet it right in and out of there as well. I don't know, just for me it's been the most frustrating shot, which is it's frustrating because it's like the key element in that game to move forward is getting it in that.
That one shot could really I don't know, George, what did you think on the layout of Godzilla? You have it.
I actually have Godzilla as I think the most difficult layout of any Stern game I've played.
Wow. Jurassic Park was way harder for me to hit than anything in Godzilla. Like Godzilla,
I understand.
When I hit God, sometimes there are moments in Godzilla where it just feels so good. Like you're just, I don't know.
I probably put like 200 games on it, and I never once had that this feels good feeling. I struggled with so many different shots, and how the geometry of that game, the ball can get wildly out of control and hit other shots for you. Like the fact that it can go up around the one side, come back down, go down the whiplash, hit your flipper, go up the in lane of the flipper, back out, hit the other flipper because your flipper is still up, and go back down the tail whip a second time. Like there is so much craziness to that game.
It's so great though. I see what you're meaning. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and also the flippers aren't like they're fully flipped. They are almost level or just above level. So it's really
you
hard to
can't-
trap up in that game because
you
the
can't
ball
post
tends to
pass.
drift off the flipper.
Wow.
That's my toughest layout.
Here in my mind, I was thinking like Godzilla's like a 4, but it's you're challenging that, and I think so. I think what was it? Craig was at like a 6. You want it to be closer. Like, do you think the layout is harder than Rush's Godzilla?
Oh my god, yeah.
What? You are nuts. I mean, I get it, but like, based on what you're saying, because Rush to you was a long playing game, but like Rush ate me alive. It just destroyed me. Mike, where are you at?
I think that Godzilla is like the perfect play field as far as like level of challenge, enough easy shots, enough average shots, enough hard shots.
Yeah.
The back door for the building is a really tough shot to hit, but satisfying when you can get that 5x
The
super
wallop,
jackpot.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
wallop, or yeah. On the Pro, the Mecha Godzilla spinner is super hard to hit. I find it's hard to hit especially compared to the premium. The right spinner is tough. And then, the building's easy. The center spinner's easy. The right ramp is easy. The loop isn't too bad. It's average. The left ramp is a challenge, but very satisfying hitting that.
What did you
Yeah.
put, Mike? I'm curious. Did you do layout?
Average.
Oh, okay. You had it.
I put Godzilla in my yellow average area, so probably around 5.
All right. I'll give it a 6, but that's interesting because
Okay.
in my mind I was thinking it was easier. But if everybody's, I think those are valid points. Code, Craig, how was it now that you got it in your basement? How easy was it for you to understand what you were doing in Godzilla?
Way easier than the Avengers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the code I think is fairly straightforward. Sometimes figuring out how to get the cities lit and to progress to another city, initially is a little bit confusing, but I think overall I would put that code. But it is a little bit harder than Foo Fighters, so I'd say it's like around a 6 as well.
Okay.
In that zone.
I think it's pretty easy to dive in, but if you really, there's so much going on in it though that I know I don't fully understand Godzilla. Like there's so much stuff going on outside, like little things in the background, all that crap. I think a 6 is fair. I don't know. I mean, where are you guys on code? Well, what did George say? George, what did you say on code? Medium. Yeah.
Medium, staged, non-linear mode progression with side quests.
Yeah.
6 is probably fine.
I mean, you could like, if you wanted to like just fire your way through the game, you could just, bump through cities fairly quickly and then get through that way. Or you can take the scenic route, which, do all the different things on each city and try and see if you can do that. So it's deep. It's deep, but it's, doing a lot of the same things in every city.
Okay, yeah, Zach, you better add a
Oh,
row.
Bond
I
60.
added it, Zach. Have the three of you guys played Bond 60? Have you had an opportunity at all?
No.
George has. Okay, George, layout. Thoughts on overall layout on difficulty?
It's awesome. I got to play it at Las Vegas Pinball Museum, and because I don't want to take a crap on the Pinball Museum, but there were a lot of broken games. But they also had a lot of techs who were actively working on it, which is great. But that game was playing flawlessly. So I spent the majority of my time on Bond 60th, and it's fun. It is very brutal. But I think with more time, I'd feel a lot more comfortable on that game.
So where does brutal fall in your numeric?
I'm 7.
Brutal 7? Brutal. Okay. Is it Rush? Rush is like a staple. Okay. I agree. I think it's I'm going to give it like an 8 or a 9. I think there were like the jackpot shot. It's timed, and that shot, you really have to thread that back in there. And then backhanding the lock shot, at least on the one I borrowed, was a challenge. I think it was a challenge, and it's so fast. I don't know. I'm going to give it a 9 just because we don't have it. But you're saying a 7. You're a better player than me. I think it's probably somewhere around an 8. But code-wise, though, I think you can understand what you need to do, like I think you can explain Bond 60th in about 3 sentences. You know, like MI6 starts your villain, Bond starts your gadget, hit down the drops. Like I think it's, I don't know. I would put Code. I like a 3. I think it's pretty easy. I don't. Do you agree with that
Yeah.
or no? Okay.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Also, I would actually put it right in line with TNA. Somebody, Pinball Eddie asked George, what would you give TNA in comparison to Bond 60th?
So
I guess I'd give both TNA and Bond 60th maybe a 7.
okay, I'm giving TNA
Or-
an 8. I think Bond is a harder layout than TNA personally.
Okay.
Just because that freaking jackpot shot. Code though with TNA, I think Code with TNA is very similar. I'm gonna give it like a 3.
Super easy.
Maybe
Yep.
even a 2. I'll give it a 2. I love it.
I love explaining the code for
TNA is
TNA.
so freaking good.
It's so
freaking
great.
good. Okay. Bond, just normal Bond. Bond Cornerstone Bond. Have any of you guys put time on that?
I've had a
Yes.
handful of games. Probably not enough to really give a great opinion. So maybe one of you guys.
I've played the heck out of it. I think the layout it's harder. That ramp shot is a challenge. I don't know. I'd probably give it like a 7 on layout personally. And then the code, unfortunately, at the time was super easy to understand because there wasn't anything in it. I don't know where it's at now. So maybe chat if you guys think y'all crazy if you think Bond 60th code is a 3. What are you talking about, Ray? It's not hard to understand. Where do you want it to be? You want it to be harder than that? Y'all crazy.
See, I think we're mistaking, or some people might be mistaking, a low score on the code with lack of depth or something, which really isn't the case. It's more of a just like understanding the game and how the progression of it and how to get through.
Yeah, it's not a depth thing. It's comprehension. Like how easy. Yeah.
Ray is pointing out a question wise, like, how would you collect or light bonus X and then collect it? And I think
spell
I
ABC,
remember.
and then you hit the shot. It's, come on, don't just Ray. Or you can collect your bonus by
Okay.
draining. That's how I collected it a lot. Ray, I gotta ask, ABC, and you can hit the, what is it, the Q shot, or is it M, whatever the one on the far. You can collect it over there. Yeah, Ray. Jeez. Okay, Mando. Am I wrong, Ray? If I'm wrong, then I actually feel bad. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Mando, George, you got one behind you.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on layout and code?
The layout is super fun. There's no difficult shot in the game most of the time. For whatever reason, I can only backhand the right ramp like 50% of the time, and it goes wild every other time.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yep.
but
like a little
I'd say it's like a 6 or a 5, maybe.
Okay. It is close. The shots are close. So if you miss, you're in trouble. Okay. 5 or 6. I don't know. If you, don't you have Mando, Mike?
I had a Mando. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had it. I ended up selling it. I don't disagree with that. I think it's probably around an average difficulty game. I think the middle shot is too easy for what it gives you. I think that's up the center shot with where you get your multi balls and your hurry ups and whatnot. I think that's too easy of a shot for all the stuff that it gives you. But the shots aren't that hard. The only thing would be maybe they are a little closer to the flipper. That would be the only thing that would make it harder. So yeah, probably around a 5.
Okay. And before we get to code, I just think the Mandalorian layout and Pinball are yes. The idea, sorry, I tried to do colors, but the redder, so 10, that's the reddest game. Those are the hardest. Verse 1 is the easiest. That's the idea. So, Mando, Stranger Things, and Black Knight, in my opinion, all have very similar layouts. And the only reason I say that is because those shots are mid. It's kind of a little fan up close. Am I crazy for thinking that? Do you know what I'm saying? At least
Fan layouts.
but you can. I think they're comparable in somewhat in just most of the shots are in the middle-ish of the play field. So the only reason I'm bringing this up is so I want to compare those 3 layouts. So between those 3, between Mando, Stranger Things, and Black Knight, where are you at on difficulty in arranging those? I know, George, you've had all 3. And I think, Mike, you've had all 3. Which one of those has the hardest layout between those three?
I'm going to
Either
say Black
Mando or
Knight.
Black Knight.
I would say
Yeah,
Black
I'll err
Knight.
on Black Knight.
Okay, is Black Knight harder or easier than TNA?
Easier.
Okay, so we'll put Black Knight at a 7.
By the way, I love this style of scoring. When we're sizing stories in at work, we use a tool called WizJiffing, which is weighted shortest job first, and it's all relative sizing to the other things you're doing. So you find out something that's like a 1 and a 10.
Yeah.
In this case, you use the Fibonacci sequence, and then you come up with values as it relates to kind of exactly how you're describing.
So McNiller and Son says Stranger Things a 3, Mando a 4, Black Knight. I agree that I think I would give Black Knight a 7, maybe give Mando a 6, and I do think Stranger Things is the easiest of those. Do you agree in that kind of order? Do we agree that Stranger Things is
Yeah,
easier?
I think
Okay.
Stranger Things is probably the layout. The layout's a little bit further. It's
Okay.
probably the furthest from the flippers as well.
I agree with that. Okay, so let's
The only
finish.
thing on Stranger Things is really just those drop targets. Is
It can
really
be,
the most
right in the
dangerous part,
middle. Yeah. Mando, code. Solid Dwight code, once again, not depth. Just how hard is it to understand? I will tell you there's a lot lit early on. So I understand ramp, scoop, right? That starts your mode. But like, it's you shoot 1 or 2 ramps, and then all of a sudden up the left ramp is your encounters. There's a lot. I don't know. It can be a little bit, in my mind, I think Mando's a little bit or a lot going on over at the beginning. I don't know. You guys thought code, where would you put code for Mando compared to other Dwight games? The Turtles is a 4. I don't know.
What's great about Mando and Star Wars is that the mode progression is right there on the playfield. So you can track at any point what your progress is and where you need to go in the game. Yeah, with the inserts. Both of them have it completely laid out in the center, which makes it really, really easy to conceptualize what the game is about. And I would say Star Wars is more tough because they make you choose a different player with all of these other things that you have to choose. So it's this weird initial learning curve thing again, as opposed to Mandalorian, which really doesn't have that. Okay. So comparison wise, I would say that Mando is easier than Star Wars. We haven't done Star Wars yet.
Nope.
But I guess I thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, throw a number out. I mean, is Star Wars on the scale 1 to 10? Star Wars code. There's a ton there. There's a whole lot lit early on. I actually think Star Wars is kind of overwhelming when you first step up to the game, trying to figure out what you're trying to hit. So
I had no clue what the hell was happening.
I think that puts Star Wars in like a 8-ish range in my mind. I mean, I think Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Star Wars suffers from the same thing Rush does with an initial learning curve for something that really isn't. It's like once you figure it out, oh, the person I choose doesn't really make a big difference. I can still progress the game however I want to.
Yeah. Okay. So if Star Wars, we kind of agree on an 8, then you're saying Mando's easier to understand than that. Is it as easy as Turtles? Or are we looking in the 4 range, 5 range? Where are we at?
I'm thinking 6, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's on par with Godzilla.
Huh. Okay. We'll finish out Star Wars then. Star Wars layout. Big old fan layout. Besides the plunge that can just screw you. The Death Star shot, it's kind of a challenge.
That's the only reason I actually put Star Wars at a medium. Otherwise, there's every shot is makeable except on the premium. The that Death Star shot is awful, and it rejects so often.
So just stick it right at a 5. I don't know. Either of you, Mike or Craig, thoughts on that?
I would go a little harder, but that's just me personally, only because like that Death Star shot, while it's tough, even if you find it easier or even through the Hoth, it whips around, right? And you're getting a lot of momentum on that ball. So that feed, and then the stand-ups and stuff. It's not even just the plunge, but I mean those force targets, and the stand-ups can also be punishing. Other than that, it's a pretty. I'd say it's about. I would give it a 6. So
Godzilla's a 6, Mando's a 6, but Avengers is a 7, and Bond is a 7. Do we think it's closer
Black
to
Knight
Avengers?
is also a 7.
Do we think it's closer to Avengers, Black Knight, or do we think it's closer to Godzilla, Mando?
Well, would you, if you asked, is Star Wars harder than Godzilla? As far as the layout is concerned,
I think it is. personally. I think
I
Zach's
know what
losing his
George
mind.
thinks.
No.
I think Godzilla is way tougher than Star Wars. There's, especially if you just look at a pro, there's no difficult shots on a pro Star Wars.
Okay.
This is a
I
tough
love
one.
this because this is pissing people out. Like, I know Zach's losing his mind. There's people
You're
in
so
chat that
wrong.
think we're all
Here,
high right
I'm going to
now.
throw out
Well,
another one. The
yeah.
pops are useless on Star Wars.
Well, yeah.
The pops
yeah.
offer no variability whatsoever to the game. That you can't even see them. You can only hear the pops in Star Wars. So the pop that happens to be kind of close to the flippers down at the bottom right in Godzilla, that's scary. And you don't get any of that.
Okay. I'm sorry you're scared. I'm sorry.
Well, I remember, George, when you were at Zach's place and you were streaming, you stood up the Star Wars and you like blew up the Death
Just
Star
blew
like
it up.
two balls or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So
Should have
yeah, for you that was an easy game.
Okay, Stranger Things. In my mind, I think the code is relatively easy to. I mean, I think Stranger Things code. I'd put it right there next to Turtles. Like, you shoot the same shot 3 times, you're in a mode. It's just automatic. 3 shots, you're in a mode automatically. Like, I don't know, when the Demogorgon, the ramp is down, you know to hit his face. I think it's relatively. Now, I understand there's a little more complexity that they sprinkle in, but do we think where? I mean, am I crazy? But is Stranger Things, is that Turtles level? Is it even easier? Do you think it's Deadpool level? Like, what are our thoughts on Stranger Things code?
I'd say it's around Deadpool level.
3 it
Yep.
is?
Yeah,
I wrote
it's pretty
non-linear mode
straightforward.
progression, and the wizard is based on mini wizard gating, so it's pretty
Yeah. Pretty good.
simple.
Okay. Black Knight. Let's finish that out. For the two of you that own it, I mean, how easy? I know I played it over the weekend. To me, it was pretty. I was playing a premium, like Catapult multi-ball was super easy to understand, but otherwise, I was like, oh, I hit to lock, then I'm hitting the shield guy. Okay. I thought it was relatively easy to understand what to do, but it didn't hand it to me like Deadpool or. I don't know. I think I'd probably put it at like a 5.
I would say the basic things you need to do for progression are pretty straightforward in the game. There's only like 5 major shots in the game.
Yeah.
So typically if one's lit, shoot it. It's not I would say it's pretty straightforward. Get a multi-ball, get a mode. I wouldn't say the code is very difficult overall.
So you think it's comparable to Elvira, or do you think it's more like a Foo Fighters? Are we looking at 4 and 5-ish? Deadpool, though? Deadpool's like...
Now, we're not talking depth, right? Because it's not a deep code. We're talking just ease of just knowing what you're doing.
How to work through it, yeah.
Yeah, I guess probably around a... what was Elvira?
Elvira's a 4.
Yeah, probably about a 4 or 5.
Okay. Monsters. Monsters, I think that layout is very easy, in my opinion. I felt like I was shooting. I thought I was just crushing it. I was shooting that layout personally. I think it's on the easier
I do
side.
think it's the perfected Guardians Metallica. Like he nailed the geometry perfectly in Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd put it up there at like even an Attack from Mars level, like maybe a 2. I mean, I think it's pretty easy to, in my mind, I think it's pretty easy to shoot. And then the code, we talked about this earlier. I think the code is also very easy to understand. The zap stuff can get a little confusing, but when it comes to just like you're hitting your shots, you're getting into certain modes. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'd give that a 2 too, probably.
2, yeah. So as easy as TNA. I don't think it's as easy as TNA. I'd put it maybe.
No, we're talking about like to understand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Right. I mean,
yeah. You had mentioned Guardians. Let's go ahead and knock that out. So you think 2 is the best level of that layout? So is Guardians, you putting that at a 3?
I think I go a little bit higher because of the rocket. The difficulty of hitting rocket, and for whatever reason, it took me a while to get comfortable with the ramps on Guardians.
Okay,
so, yeah, 4
comparable
seems...
to Medieval Madness, I would say, in layout rise. I know, Mike, you freaking love Guardians.
I do love Guardians. Yeah, I mean it's not an overly difficult layout. There's a couple of challenging shots, but yeah, it's right
Okay.
around there.
So, and then code, understanding the code of Guardians. It's oh,
Well, I
Zach does
mean,
bring
what's
up
to
the scoop though.
understand?
The scoop on Guardians is kind of hard.
I mean,
I think
you
it's pretty
have
easy to
modes when
understand.
you
Yeah.
start the game. Like you don't have to qualify
Yeah.
modes. They're right there. And hey, there's a Groot. Let's see what happens when I smash him in the face. Oh, it opens up. Let's
Yeah.
put a ball in there. Oh, multi-ball. I mean, there you go. The code, it's
I'd put
pretty
it up there with
straightforward. There's depth to it for, experienced or expert type players, but easy code, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Monster Bash. I don't know. Craig, have you played Monster Bash? You familiar with that? Put some time
I've
on that?
monster bashed it.
He's
I have monster bashed the shit out of that thing.
Layout wise, how'd you feel? How'd you feel as you're flying around that playfield?
It's pretty easy. So the layout, yeah, it's pretty easy. I'd say it's probably about a 2 or a 3. Just like all the other
Okay.
Monster Bash, AFM and Medieval Madness. I'd put them in the zone. Yep, and I'd put the code.
Code.
1 or 2.
Yeah, the code is real easy to
It's
understand.
basic.
I think.
Yeah.
You hit the shots, I think you're at a 1 or 2. I agree with that. Maybe
Yeah.
even a 1.
I'm not a huge out of those 3 games. I think Monster Bash is the weakest out of all those personally, but that's just my opinion.
See, I've really thought about owning one, and the only reason I've thought about it is just because I know the theme would resonate so well with my kids, and it is a very approachable game. I think anybody could step up to that game and have a good time. It has some amazing toys and mechs in it, but I also know that there are a lot of people that are skilled that play that game and they get bored. So don't know. Speaking of board, chat. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're enjoying the conversation here. I hope you're having a good time. I see Pinball and Zach are going back and forth, but hope everybody's having a good time. I have no idea how many viewers we have right now because I have this screen up. So hopefully people are still here.
Thousands.
Thousands. Let's go. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. Beatles. Beatles is a game I do not have much time on. Mike, have you played a Beatles? You probably played one in a competition.
The comments is really mostly I've only played it in a competition, so I found it tougher, but it could also be the way it was set up too.
Okay.
For a layout, I mean, I don't think it's an overly complicated layout. The spinning disc can really give you problems. That's a really major thing.
Let's see what George
would be that spinning disc.
Oh, he didn't play it. Not enough games.
Yeah, the spinning disc can really cause some problems for your ball. It's close enough to the flippers that you really need to have a quick enough reaction time to defend the ball. And you can get some speed around the loops and stuff. It can be a fast game, but I wouldn't put it as an overly difficult layout. There's really not very many shots to hit in the game other than drop targets and stand-ups and a couple of loops.
The code is very easy to understand. That's why I think a 3 is pretty decent on that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the same thing. You can pick a mode right at the beginning of your ball. I mean you don't even need to know how to start a mode if you don't want to.
I am seeing just look at our number. So we have a 10 at Avengers, but we don't have a 9. We have a few 8s. We don't really have any 7s. I'd be curious how we're weighting this, if we're weighting it decently.
B+.
B+. We're coming up. All right, so we have just a few more left. So George is back. So Jurassic Park, George. Just based on layout alone, if we compare it to other Elwins, so we have Godzilla at a 6. We have Bond 60th out of 9, but Avengers is a 7. Where are you feeling on Jurassic Park? Do you think it's harder than those, easier than those?
7 or 8.
7 or 8. What about you, Mike?
I would. Yeah, it's I've had times where I felt the game was really easy, but then I've also felt it was hard. So yeah, I would probably go around a 7.
I definitely think it's harder than Avengers. I think it's a harder layout than Avengers. That beat me up a lot more than Avengers. So I think I'm actually going to go with an 8. I don't know, Craig, you've put time in on it. That freaking O shot,
8.
man. And
it's tough.
Yeah. But I think it's good. I think it's good. But code Code is another one. There's so much depth there. There's so much you can
Yeah.
do in the game, but I do think it's relatively easy to understand.
Easy to understand. Yeah.
Spell map, get into a
Yep.
paddock. But
Well,
once you're in
and
a
that's
paddock,
just-
though, understanding, it's like, what shots am I hitting? Am I collecting this? Oh, now I need to qualify. It's a little more. I don't know. It's a little. There's actually some decent complexity there. Go ahead, George.
The complexity is that the paddock, which you just talked about, is only one of the 3 different paths you have to go down to get to the wizard mode. It's not like it has equal weighting to the Monster Mayhem or basically the T-Rex line, and then also equal weighting to the control room. Like that's just one of 3. And the great thing about that game is that you can work on all 3 kind of simultaneously. But that also it adds some complexity, and then add to all of that, I think it takes a lot for people to realize how immersed the game is into all of that, into the play field, and the fact that the toy, the really hard thing to get across, which I love when I stream Jurassic Park, is to talk about the fact that the direction the Nada Jeep is pointing actually helps you traverse differently over the through the different paddocks is not. It's intuitive once you know it. Once you understand it, it makes all the sense in the world. But until then, it's that initial hump that makes things kind of
Learning
difficult,
curve,
just like Rush and some of the other games we've talked about.
Well, in that sense, then, is the code to Jurassic Park harder or easier to understand than Rush?
I want to say it's easier. I do. I want to say that it's easier to understand, but
Yeah, it's easier.
At least to just get into the game, I think it's easier. But the depth of it, there's a lot more there. But or not
there's
more,
options,
but it's
right?
but
Like,
you can realize, it's actually a lot. There's a lot of complexity there. So okay, I think it's easier than Rush, so we're not at an 8. Is it as easy to understand as a Mando or a Godzilla? Because I know Keith really adjusted Godzilla. Like, I want to make it easy for people to get in to do this and this and this. So I don't know. Are we looking at a 7 for Jurassic Park in complexity?
To help with how it relates to Mando, Mando actually has mode progression as one of the 3 chains, multi-balls, and a third one, which is the encounters.
Yep.
So same thing with Jurassic Park. It has standard mode progression, which is the paddocks, and then it's got control room, and then it's got the T-Rex events.
I agree. I found it. I think it's definitely harder. I don't know. Is it harder than? I think it's harder than Mando.
Yeah, but
I'm good with 7.
but then you have Raptor Tribal, then you
yeah.
have the Pterodon and the
It can get confusing.
Chaos.
Once you look past the initial, just like, oh, get into a paddock, defeat dinosaur, move on. Like, once you try to get, then it's like, whoa. Like, I remember watching Pin Clash when they did Jurassic Park, and it's like, first to find a fossil. I'm like, how the heck do you get a fossil? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't. That got real. But then Pin Clash had its moments even with Godzilla. Start the pterodactyl mode, the pterodactyl, whatever it was. It's like, what are you talking? I don't know what these are. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, no, like what George said, just one more point, like with the Jurassic Park, is really you have your 3 main facets of the game. You have your paddocks, you have your T-Rex modes, and you have your control room modes.
Yeah.
If you're explaining somebody how to play it, you're saying spell map, there's your modes.
Yeah.
Spell T-Rex by hitting the truck, there's your modes.
Yep.
And as you're playing through these, you'll get rewarded with control room modes, and that's it. Like that's the game. There's really.
Okay.
I mean, if you're explaining it in a nutshell and not going into any more depth, obviously, then.
Well, see, my whole thought with Jurassic Park is it's a great game, but if somebody was going to get their first pinball machine, I think it's a hard game. I think it's a hard layout, and I think it's a very complex game. Like, that would not be a game that I would recommend for somebody to do for their first game to get into pinball. In my mind, I think Godzilla is a game I would recommend for people. But once we're looking at the scores, though, and George just threw up in his mouth, like, no, people are saying, no, you don't recommend Godzilla. All right, we'll stick with that one then. Iron Maiden. I have not spent much time on this game. So layout-wise, is this layout harder, easier than Jurassic Park, Avengers, Godzilla? What are our thoughts on Iron Maiden's layout?
I think it's his easiest layout.
It's his easiest one. Mike, you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. So it's his easiest layout. Is it as easy as Deadpool? Because Deadpool's a
The
5.
The toughest shots on Iron Maiden are the ramps,
Yep. Through the
and they're
pops.
not that
Ooh.
bad.
Okay. Yeah, I actually find the spinner, the left spinner, the revive spinner is tough, and
Yep, that's a good point. I'm wrong. Yeah, that revive spinner is very tough.
yeah, the revive spinner. Actually, I do find the right orbit is very similar to the O shot on Jurassic Park. It can be a little tight,
So maybe a
but
6 then?
it's definitely his easiest layout. I think it's like the perfect level of difficulty versus approachability. So I guess we'd have to put it. I'd put it in the average.
Right at 5.
5,
5-ish?
6, yeah.
Okay. And then code, just understanding what you're doing in the game. Is it compared to other Elwyn codes? It's a relatively easy thing to understand, right? I mean, I know there's a deep once you get deeper in the game, you realize all these other things we're building, and there's all this other stuff in the background. But just
Well,
go ahead.
There's once again 3 different paths of progression to get to the wizard mode. You have the 2 different multi-balls, and the specifically mummy is really hard to complete.
Yeah.
You've got the power stuff, which just happens naturally, but there's tracking on the playfield, which makes it a little bit easier. And then you've got the 5 or 6 modes, and each of those has its own. 2 of those have their own like mini wizard mode that happens at the end of them. So it's. Once again, I would put it, just based on how I described it, comparable to pretty close to Mando or Jurassic Park. Now, I don't think it's a difficult game by any means, but there are, once again, 3 different paths you have to keep track of.
So we'll go with a 6. I'm good with that. We just
You put an 8 there. You put an 8.
Did I? No, I scrolled down. That's what it was.
Oh, you
6,
did scroll.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have just a few more here. Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's layout. In my opinion, it's on the easier side. I think we've seen that in a lot of the streams. The fact that the ball doesn't drain much, especially when you have the upper play field. I think the layout is probably up there at like a 3. I think it's pretty easy. Now, I do think the code is not finished, but I think if you just had somebody step up to it and try to figure the game out, there is a whole lot going on at once. But and the story, each mode there's actually some, I don't know. I don't think it's the easiest game to understand. Maybe I'd put it at like a 5, like put it right in the middle. Maybe not hard mode. I don't know. Do any of you guys?
I've never played. I can't.
Never played.
Yeah.
We'll see if Zach has one. Let's see if he freaks out about that. GGF. The layout's brutal. And the only reason I say that is there's a toy right in the middle that you can't hit. You hit it and you're dead. Like you one shot, you're gone. So I think the layout of GTF is actually pretty hard. You throw on to the fact that at least the ones I played, you can barely lock balls, getting the ball around. I think it's a pretty hard layout. I don't know, George, you've put time on it. Like you were playing the heck out of one at Texas, but
I played it before the rule set was far enough along to really understand, I think, a lot of what was going on. That said, if you avoid the middle, that game is so easy. If you just hit the left ramp, the left orbit, and then the right orbit, I don't know if the game allows you to progress. I hope it doesn't allow you to progress with just hitting all of the easy shots, but there's 4 shots that aren't the middle in that game.
I know, and that's, to be honest, I probably haven't put enough time onto it, and I think the code really wasn't very fleshed out that we can really even fill this in. I just felt the need to put it on the list because you can buy one right now. Deep Party, what are we doing? We're rating difficulty level. 1 is in easy, 10 is in really hard. I don't know. Should we just get rid of it? Should we rate it? I don't know. I just
question mark.
Okay,
Well, layout,
Godfather.
I mean, that's known.
Godfather. I've actually been playing this a good bit. This is a fun game. I will say the code, it takes a little while to understand this is my just overall gripe with a lot of JJP games. There's so much there, but you put anybody up to it and say, here, figure out the game. They're going to be a deer in headlights for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd actually put the code on the harder side. I think I'm looking at like a 7, but once you actually understand it, it's not as hard, but it's not an easy game to just explain to people. Like well, this quadrant is you got to do this, this, and this. And I don't. Am I wrong for a 7? Have any of you guys played Godfather?
I mean, played it, but not enough to know the rules.
Okay. I do find the layout though. I can hit pretty much the majority of what I want to shoot. The upper loop shots, there are some challenging shots there, so I'm thinking like a 4-ish. Feel free, chat, to tell me I'm wrong about those. Toy Story. The layout's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it like a 3.
I don't think there's really
Is
any
that-
difficult shots in the game other than like repeating that Bo Peep loop. But I mean,
That's- yeah.
initially it's not hard to hit once. It's just.
And I'd put the code. I'd probably put it in the 4-ish range. It's not hard to understand. GTF should be.
Yeah.
What do we got? It's more basic. Oh, he's okay. Bo Peep, screw you, Joel. Yeah, 100%. I'd put about a 4 in that, and then Zeppelin. We talked about this at the beginning of it. Zeppelin, where we at with Zeppelin? Layout, danger, and everything. Not. I think the right ramp is kind of hard to find, but I still think it's a relatively
Right ramp, right orbit are hard in my opinion, and it's just it's just based on the distance they are from the flipper. That ramp is actually quite a far distance from the flipper as well as the orbit. On the premium, the side ramp with the upper flipper is probably the hardest upper ramp to hit in all of pinball. It's so hard to hit.
Right.
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Those 3 shots are in my opinion tough. The other ones are fairly easy, like the spinner is easy, the center ramp is easy, the scoop is easy. It's a big open layout. There's not a lot of complicated stuff there.
Maybe
So
put it at a 7 then, because that upper flipper, And then what about code understanding? Because Zach's saying here it's still confusing to him. Led Zeppelin.
No, I would say it's a very confusing code.
So like an 8.
There's still things like I don't even know exactly how all the songs actually work.
Okay, so overall, you can see what we did here, right? So overall, I mean, we could average them. This should be 4.5. But do we think, like in my mind, Foo Fighters, if I'm looking at that, is it more of a 4 or a 5? I think it's more of a 4. I think it's on an easier level. Like, you see what I'm doing here overall for Foo? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
E+.
Bond, I would go 7 because that game's kind of brutal. Rush, though, if we're at a 9 on layout, but code is a 3.
It's a 6.
11.
11, he's adding it in. Rush is a solid 8. I'll give you that. Godzilla or go 6, even though George thinks he disagrees. Avengers, I'd probably put it closer to like an 8. I think, yeah. Elvira, I'm going to give it like a 2. I think it's, Jurassic Park, are we going more towards 8 or 7? 8 or 7?
8.
8.
Yeah.
Deadpool, I think, is a solid 4, if not a...
Yeah.
Iron Maiden, 5 or 6.
I give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Star Wars, right at 7. We lean more one way or the other.
Sure.
7. Cactus Canyon, I think it's... I'd go with 2. Scooby, let's give it... I think it's actually... Even though the layout's easy, I think the code is really complex. I'd go almost a 5, but probably a 4. Yeah. Godfather, just because the code really is pretty complex, I think I'm going to go 6. TNA, we're at an 8 and a 2. 8 and a 2. I think it's... When people talk about TNA, though, they talk about it being a hard game. So I think we got to keep it down towards the 8. I'd maybe give that a 7, even though the code, it's just... But what people think about with TNA is... I don't know. What do you think, George? You've owned a TNA a long time. The code's super easy to understand.
6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we keep it down at the... Yeah. Toy Story, I'm going to go 3. It's pretty easy. Zeppelin, I think 7. Turtles, same thing. Brutal layout, but the code's easy to understand. Where are we at? Maybe a Same thing, 7-ish,
6.
8.
I give it.
8.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay.
We go 8.
Well-
8 though. Do you think now 8 that puts
No.
Turtles, Jurassic Park, and Avengers at a similar and
No,
Rush?
no. Mike's right. I think it. Yes, 6 maybe is a more appropriate number.
Okay. I'm gonna go 7. Stranger Things, I think a 4 works for that. Black
Yeah.
Knight, this is where George thinks it's an easy game, but yet most people think Black Knight is a kind of a brutal game, kind of a brutal game.
Hold on. Just to rectify, I think the layout is easy, and I think the rule set is easy to understand. But I actually have Black Knight at the highest of all the mediums in terms of difficulty. So the
Okay.
same thing. I think this is one where the numbers maybe don't add up because in the same way that TNA, despite the fact that it doesn't exactly match, I would lean towards a 7 or maybe an 8 on Black Knight.
Oh, I've sort of always called Black Knight like Stern's version of TNA. I mean, yes, it has one ramp, but it's like a little shallow ramp. Otherwise, it's a pretty basic fan layout. So I would put it close to that. Yeah. 4, 3.
2. I think Attack from Mars is. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Now the real question is, can I mess all of this up and somehow rearrange these? Do I do this?
No, go to the top.
Filter by cell value?
Nope, you're not filtering. You need to sort.
I don't know.
You got to go to the top first.
Do I select the whole column? Oh, the whole column. There we go.
Yeah.
And
Sort. Keep going.
Sort A to
if you go
Z.
A to Z, it does alphabet. It does numerical as well. Or A to Z
There
will
we
do
go.
numerical
Hey,
as well.
he can be taught. All right. So how do we feel about this? Attack from Mars being one of our easiest game, and then Elvira, Cactus Canyon Monsters. This is kind of making sense. These are on the easier side. Monster Bash. Where are we at with you guys? So George's easiest games were.
Well,
Medieval
if you
Madness,
flip the
Monster
order,
Bash.
it's if you flip the order on
Then
the
it'd be the same as what he had.
yeah.
Z-Day.
There we go.
So
Yeah.
Rush, Avengers, Jurassic Park is what we're saying is the harder games. Where are you at, George? Rush, Godzilla. He has Avengers, Jurassic Park, so we're in the same ballpark. And he has Rush and Turtles, Avengers. So we're right around where we need to be. And then your other side, Attack from Mars. He has Toy Story, Dead Center. Yeah, where are we at? Foo Fighters, Dead Center, Toy Story on the easier side. There's some good stuff here. There's some really good stuff here. Please feel free to screenshot this or whatever and read all of George's notes because there's some really good stuff here. I just feel bad. And then same with Mike's. He had some really good thoughts as well. But I do think
Show my shot. Show my.
Craig. Yeah. Avengers game. Oh, great game. I love it so much. Godzilla, best game ever. I love it so much. Rush. Oh my God, Rush. Haven't played. I think this is pretty like these are the harder games in general. I think that's pretty understood. And then we have middle of the road. I really thought Godzilla was going to be higher when it comes to easiness, but I know George disagrees. He found it difficult. And yeah, you thought it was pretty difficult too, Mike. Okay. All right.
Where's Rush on both of ours? I can't. That's a little too small.
Rush
for me to see,
you're in the orange realm.
and where's
kind
Rush
of
on Mike's?
Medium hard.
It's number 1.
He had the hardest
That is
game he
number
has.
one difficulty. Okay.
Yeah. And yours was it's a long
that
playing
for
game?
me is the one that's the most misplaced out of the bunch.
Okay, because it was
That's
a longer...
like my Godzilla.
I
find
totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think anything down here is a safe bet. Like if you just want to buy a game to have a good time, basically all the CGC games are easy. Munster's got a hard time for being too easy. Elvira is known for being easy. Toy Story, Zach beat it in one stream, right? But Guardians, I think, is a really good, universally loved game by Stern. Stranger Things is getting there. Deadpool, same thing, very approachable. But that's why it comes back to that initial Facebook post of people saying Foo Fighters is hard. Look at this list. It's not really compared to other. I only got halfway to be fair. Correct. Zach did okay. So I don't know. I thought that was good. I know Craig, I'm sorry. I know I was talking a lot with George and Mike because they've owned half of these games, but
Yeah, no, it's great.
okay. Well, I thought that was cool. Hopefully, people enjoyed that. Highlight and block sort. I don't know what that does. What are you talking about, Pinmonk?
I want to
ahead.
point out
Yeah.
something really cool with the heat map. Do you see so you've generated a heat map, but there's a few at the top that are rated as difficult that have a light colored association with them.
TNA,
And all of those are brutal games.
correct.
So
because
it's
the
really-
layout's hard. So what am I doing owning TNA and Turtles? What is wrong with me? And then Mike still has his Black Knight.
And Bond 60th.
And Bond 60th.
Yeah.
But these are the games in my mind that keep me coming back. And it's because I can understand what I need to do. I just can't do it. This is my fault. I'm the one draining. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. So these have a lot of appeal to me to want to keep playing. Because I'm dumb, but I can understand what
Joel's
I need to
a
do.
sadist.
I know what I need to do, but they keep me coming back. Versus others where it's like once you blow through the game on this end, it's like, I don't need to start again, Hard games stay in collection, easy games leave unless they're just purdy. That's a very good point. Very good point. Well, this was fun. I thought this was really fun. I enjoyed that. That was a lot of numbers and whatnot. But I do want to real quick, I know it's midnight, we need to be wrapping it up, but there are people that want to know this topper, initial thoughts. I know Craig shared his thoughts before he saw the video. I know, Mike, you don't do toppers, but maybe you guys can address the mode, or I'm happy to talk about, I don't know. Initial thoughts, we'll go around. We'll end with Craig because we know his thoughts. George, you don't have a Godzilla anymore, but if you did, I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'd pick it up for the price.
Yeah.
It's less than half the cost of Mando. It is colorful. It's got a lot going on. It adds an extra mode. Now give it another year and that mode will just become available to everybody. So I feel like it's a temporary pay to play kind of situation.
Nobody said that yet, George, but I see what I mean. They did it with the other ones. They've done it with all the other
they did it with
ones.
Jurassic Park and some of the other ones too. So it's just you get early access when you buy the topper to this mode. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's still horribly overpriced. That probably costs less than $100 to make. I'm guessing 50, and the upsell on it is just ridiculous.
Well,
but
yeah, that's pretty.
But it's cool.
Yeah. Pinmonk, I don't know. Why no Big Lebowski? I really just filled out we left off a lot of pins, but you're right. Big Lebowski is. I think it was on the easier. Would put it on the easier side.
Is it easier if how many times have you replaced the coils and fixed the fact that you can't hit the right ramp from the left flipper?
Reset the game because the game code
Yeah,
crashed.
yeah.
A non-working game sure as hell makes it hard to play.
Okay, Craig, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts on that? Look at
Well,
that. Right
it
there.
definitely, even just on this stream, Joel, it definitely looks better than that Stern promotional video. I mean, they couldn't have made a worse looking video for an accessory that costs a ridiculous amount of money, in my opinion. Like, if I'm amazed at this industry that something could be shown like that and people are still buying the shit out of it. I'm amazed at people what they'll do for their stuff. Anyway, it does look very cool. So thankfully, it actually looks amazing when it's lit up like that. So people, I think. It goes to show you too, when people are all in on something, they're like, they'll buy just about anything for it if it's part of the game. And I think the code addition was a big part of it as well, that people were like, all right, even if the thing sucks, I still get an extra code and that's worth it for me. I am baffled why they chose to use that fucking figure again. Like, I want to crush it with a hammer when I see that thing.
What I will say,
to me, I just can't. I don't understand it. I'll give it the first time they put it in. They're like, okay, we're not going to spend any money on this thing. We're just going to throw it in the machine. Like, which I find incredibly ironic that it's like the probably one of the greatest games of all times, one of the worst molded figures in a game I've ever seen.
Dollar store Godzilla.
Like, it is horrific. I would take the cake toppers in Toy Story over this thing.
I will. There is a figure,
however,
that replaces it perfectly, and it's way better. I have it in my game.
I know.
and it fits perfectly up there. But I get it. You're paying $1,000 for topper. You don't want to have to
Yeah,
then
so
spend another $50
that's
on
what
another
bugs
figure.
me. It's
Yeah.
like, anyway.
Um,
It does look way better in real life,
Yeah.
thankfully, and I think it's obviously enough for people to want it. That you can't get them right now, or they're very difficult to find. And I think that mode is a big part of it as well. That once people play that mode,
yes.
and hopefully they release that like they've done with some of the other Keith Elwyn games eventually, or they do another mode that you have easy
that they
access
throw
to.
on. Zach jokes around topper mods is the next big thing. What I think is funny is people complain. So these are the speaker light kits from Doug at Speaker Light Kits. I love them. I think they look awesome. But the burning building up here is more of a yellowish orange flame.
Yeah, it looks
and there are
very
people
cool.
that complain about that they don't match. So I bet there will be people that will make some sort of red filter that will go on these up here, so they'll match down here. Which
I
is
like
kinda
the
crazy.
orange better, honestly. I think
Yeah.
I like the orange better, but they're both very cool. I think
Yeah,
it's a
it
great
doesn't bother me the
effect.
difference at all. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
no.
gets more orange as you go up. But I will say the code that new mode is awesome. It is a ton of fun to play. That's genuinely all I've been playing, and the reason I love it is because that King of the Monsters. I almost feel bad. I think there's these amazing wizard modes that some of these coders make, and so few people see them. And so I'm glad that they've added some of these things where you can skip right to them. But this is a different mode because of the way it's timed. And what I like about it is it's forcing me to hit shots that I normally don't because you're battling all four creatures. Like, to be honest, I never pick Megalon ever because it's a hard guy. Like, normally I'll pick. So now the fact that I have to play him, I really enjoy that. And then having to hit that left spinner more often, it's making me better at this game, which I really enjoy. And to my surprise, my wife actually played pinball with me the other night. And I showed her that mode, and she loved it. And the reason is it's endless ball save. It's just like Half Shell Challenge with turtles. It's endless ball save, so she could just keep going and hit things and progress through it. And she actually got through the first phase and was able to then get to the second phase where there you go, great. Yeah. So it's an awesome mode. It's an awesome mode. Now, if I bought that topper and I'd spent good money for it, if all of a sudden they release the mode to everybody, would that piss me off? I don't know. I mean, there's a exclusive part of it that's neat, but at the same time, I know how much fun I'm having with that mode. So if everybody can have fun with that mode, okay, I'm fine with that. We'll see. Hold it. Joel's married. Yes, I am married. But yeah, overall toppers, I'm really enjoying the topper. I'm really enjoying it at all. And one last thing we do have to mention real quick, just because we do love Hottie as much as we do. It looks like Venom is happening.
Oh,
And
baby.
the only reason we've talked about this plenty. We've talked about it plenty, but Comic-Con, Todd McFarlane was in. Right, Todd, right? Todd McFarlane. I think I'm right.
Todd.
Yeah,
Yes,
Todd.
TODD.
He was in Stern's booth last year, and people were like, "What's going on?" And Venom was rumored to be there. Well, they've said this. I don't know exactly where this came from. Hottie actually sent this to Nap Arcade, but come visit us at Comic-Con this year. This is Stern, and play Stern's next Cornerstone game release, plus check out the rest of the lineup. So it's acting like it should be there, ready to play. So once again, it really seems like things are pointing towards Venom being what's coming. I'll just leave
Worth
that there,
pointing
Hottie.
out, Todd has done quite a few comics. He did Spider-Man, and the other big one he did was Spawn.
Yeah.
And if there was anything to be more BA than Venom, it would be a Spawn pinball machine.
Yeah, I
Throwing
agree.
that out there.
I do agree, but I think when it comes to just which license is going to sell a lot better, obviously Spider-Man's hot right now. It's gonna continue to be hot. I'll be Hottie. Hard disagree. So I don't know either. We got to mention it. We got to mention it because it's there. And believe it or not, there's a lot of other news that we were planning on talking about, but this show's gone long. So maybe we'll save it for next time. But yeah, Big Bang Bar. Apparently there's some rumors going on here. I don't know. There's plenty here. Check out App Arcade. Jason's awesome. So I think that's it. We'll plug it up. We'll wrap it up. So we'll go reverse order. So George, plug away.
My name is George. I stream on Twitch under Don't Panic Flip. Right now, 2 days a week, probably get back to a healthy 3 days a week. And I'll probably continue mixing in more video games along with pinball. Hopefully start doing some actual dedicated video game streams in the future. I can't say enough positive things about Ape Out. I do really want to get to a point where I'm kind of speed running that game. That is so much fun and it's so beautiful. That's where you can find me. Also on TPN. You can check out don'tpanicflip.com, twitch.tv/don'tpanicflip. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Thanks. And thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm checking right now if Ape Out is available on the Switch. Because I want to play that game. It is. It is available on the Switch. Sweet.
It's awesome.
Sweet. Okay. Thank you, George. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being back. It's good to see you back. Playing pinball and loving pinball. It's great. Mike, thanks for not being underwater, and your mic sounds great. So, thank you. But yes, plug away,
What can
man.
I say? It only took me 17 tries, but we got there. Yes, thanks for having me again. I'm Mike. You can catch me on Pinballers streaming here and there, and we're going to have some tournaments coming up as well. You can check us out on Facebook, Pinballers on YouTube. Check us out, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Like always, you look great. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Greg Bobby. Greg, I know that, hey, don't take it. Those guys, Dennis and Zach, they can be kind of mean to you, and you don't deserve it. So I hope you feel the love here in this circle of friends.
I always feel the love here, Joel. Thank you. I can always count on you for a little love. Yes. So, yes, I do the top stories news segment for the Pinball Show, which, of course, you can find on the Pinball Network every other Monday. And I think Zach was saying that we are now a top-rated podcast. We are trending so far up. Even Ted Lasso is listening to us these days. It's like, I'm sure that we are like top 10 podcasts in the world right now.
Top 10,
I'm
at
pretty
least.
sure. At least.
At
At least in this universe, for sure.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on here. I know, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
Thanks, Joel.
And yeah, I'm Joel. This is Flipping Out Stream. So thank you all to chat, everybody that was here participating tonight. Really appreciate that. If you're listening to this afterwards on YouTube, definitely thumbs up, comment, anything like that. I try to read every comment and respond when I can. And Triple Drain, we released an episode, I think it was last week. So hopefully we'll record another one soon. Check that out. And then I know a bunch of TPN people have stuff on Silverball Swag. You can do all that. And I should probably plug Flipping Out. If you want to buy anything pinball related, reach out to Zach and Nicole. They will treat you right. They are good people. And Greg is awesome when it comes to helping support all that as well. So I think we're going to call it there. Next week, I am going to stream a game. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm streaming Foo Fighters or Godfather, but I will tell you there will be giveaways for both. So depending on what I'm streaming, there will be a giveaway. So should be pretty cool. And it's not a lunchbox. Sorry. You got to buy those Triple J lunchbox on the Zazzle link. But all right, well, we will wrap it up and appreciate you guys. Have a great week. All right.